Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call a meeting to order. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we're in Treaty 1 territory in the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. My name is Ron Merritt. I'll be your chairperson this afternoon. Introducing the panel members is Laurie Davidson to my left, and to her left is Kathleen Garrity. Representing the city of Winnipeg is Gretchen Ramsawat. And our recording secretary is Hoda Aziz. We'll be hearing applications for revision of the assessment rule in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested has been described in each application and will limit discussions to those matters. The statements that the applicants or the assessor make at the hearing are sworn testimony, and anybody speaking in these matters must be sworn in. Please be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the board. The board is appointed annually by City Council and is independent of it, along with the city administration. We make our decisions based on the evidence provided at the hearing and issue a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the board's decision in respect to application may be appealed to the municipal board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included in the board's order. In respect to the hearing, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. It will be then, we'll have the assessor's testimony, followed by questions that the other applicants may have, and then it'll be the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each party will have the opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once the evidence about the application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave, and the process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all applications have been heard, and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live stream recorded and will be part of the public record. I'll ask our secretary to swear in the assessor and to swear in the first applicant.
Please stand.
Yeah.
Maybe options so I will affirm without.
I affirm.
All right. Okay, please state your full name.
Gretchen Ramsawat.
Do you affirm that you are to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have the option of Bible or to affirm with confidence?
I'll go with the Bible.
Okay, sounds good. Please state your full name.
Ryan Barrels.
Do you swear you're about to tell the whole truth, the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you have any evidence you would like to present to the panel? Perfect. And your side copies? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to 2855 St. Anne's Road. Mr. Ramsawat, whenever you're ready, you can take us through this property.
St. Mary's Road,
I'm sorry?
St. Mary's,
Oh, what did I say?
St. Anne's.
St. Anne's? Okay, we'll go to one more street. St. Anne's Road. Mr. Ramsawat?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the property located on 2855 St. Mary's Road, rule number 080 067 25100. Brief description of the property. It's a one-story single-family home. It was built in 1974. 1,700 square feet is the size of the building. Now you'll notice immediately under that you have a full park area. And I checked the records, it's actually 1,360 square feet for a basement there. The other part of it with the additional area is an 818 square feet on record for a finished basement. A double garage at 572 square feet. And we also have a record that there's a barn of some sort of 2,280 square feet on record. Now, one of the things I'd like to point out, Mr. Chairman, because I was here on this property before, we might hear just from the other side, or may not, that the sunroom is part of the living area. Now, another assessor was here on the property after I was here some years ago. Got the information from the field form that was requested, and she determined also that the 1,700 square feet is what it is, and the 1,700 square feet does not, I repeat, does not include the sunroom. Now, we have 25 acres of land, and we have an assessment of $513,000. Okay, now there are 4 properties here that have been selected to support the assessment. Comparable number 1 on 421 Fraser Road, 1-story single-family home, and it does look like from the effective age change, it appears that there have been a little bit of renovation done to this property to cause that effective age change. It is sitting on a 5-acre lot, and it's $486,000 is the value on comparable number 1. Now, comparable number 2 is 23 Winmore Road. It's also a 1-story home built in 1983, so it's a bit newer than that of the subject property, 1,405 square feet. It also has some finishing in the basement. This property is sitting on a 2-acre lot, and it's $522,000 for assessed value. Comparable number 3 then is 180 Paul Boulevard. It's also a 1-story home. It was built in 1974. And it also appears that there have been some renovation done to this property to cause an effective age change as well. 1,076 square feet is the size of the building. 5 acres is the size of the lot. $466,000 is the assessed value on this property, or certainly the market value that you're looking for. Comparable number 4 then on 3136 St. Mary's Road, which would be further out going, that would be going south. This is a 1.5-story home built around the same time as the subject property, and a little bit larger than that of the subject property. It's got a full basement with some finishing in the basement. It also has a swimming pool, as I just noticed, so we'll take that into consideration. This property is sitting on a 2.21 acres of lot, and it is $491,000. As I look at it, when I consider that the subject property does in fact have 25 acres of land, we may hear the argument that this property there would be landlocked. I would may beg to differ, because we cross that bridge when we get there. So even without that 25 acres, if we didn't have the 25 acres of land space there, which we consider as excess land, then all the other comparables actually support the value even if the land was smaller. And that's my presentation. I would also reserve some kind of reservation to point out that I do happen to have, and perhaps I should, I don't know if I have enough copies on this. Oh, okay, now I remember. I think I had sent in another page there, which I don't happen to have here myself. Are you seeing it? Where it shows some land on a, yes, no, not that one. I sent that in. One.
This one?
No, it's a one-pager and just shows a picture of a portion of land in the area. Yes, that's the one. That's the one in the middle. Yeah. What I want to point out there as an evidence is that you notice there is a roll number on the picture that would take you directly to the portion of property. I think it's called rhombus in mathematical terms. Right, you see that? That is a 5-acre lot that was actually sold for $7,000 per lot, and it's completely landlocked. So when you're making a decision on value, please bear that in mind, that I'm using an evidence of a portion of property off St. Mary's Road that was sold for $35,000 some time ago at $7,000 per acre, that the only way you can get in there is through a helicopter. You cannot go there otherwise because it's completely landlocked. The subject property, on the other hand, as long as it's one owner owning the property, they have access to it from St. Mary's Road. And that will be part of my evidence. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I thank you. Questions of the assessor?
I do. Mr. Ramsel, are you aware that the excess land portion, are you aware that that's being farmed?
I don't know that it is farmed, but it may be used for a different use. I don't specifically can confirm that much. If the land is there, and it's very possible that yes, it may, and I take your word for it. If it is farmed, yes, I would not disagree.
Okay. And if it was farmed, if it is farmed, would the assessment department, you think, plan to change the classification on the farm property? Because we're dealing with two different class codes here. We got class code 10 and we got class code 30. My view is that the class code 30 would refer to the excess land portion. So I'm just wondering if, again, if it was farmed, the assessment department would make the proper adjustments to get that class 2 a farm use value, so class code 31?
Well, I'm certainly looking at it, regardless of the use, I'm looking at value, and the value there, I'm showing at least on one other piece of information, the value for a landlocked is $7,000 an acre. When you have 18 acres separated, it's not landlocked, I'd like to think that the value is there. I'm talking about value, and you may be talking about use. Either way, whatever, regardless of what use you use it for, the land value there, in one particular case, where it's completely landlocked. When the property is not landlocked, it's going to sell for more money.
And sorry, not that I'm going to be arguing the residential portion, but you said that the effective age was, you said that there was a difference with the effective age, because I'm just seeing here year built, and the effective age is also equal to what the year built was, so 1974. So were there adjustments made to that? I was just a little confused.
Well, when these values are being calibrated, the effective age is certainly taken into consideration. So when you have two properties there, comparable number 1 and comparable number 3 has an effective age change, then it will be calibrated there accordingly. And if it didn't have that effective age change, then the values are going to be different, or going to be lower. Because it's got effective age change, that's recognized in the value.
Okay, yeah, that's that. But for the rearage portion though, you said that you did not think it was landlocked?
Yours, yours would not be landlocked. No, I would not describe the appellant's property, the subject property as landlocked.
Okay, but there's no, like, you would have to go through the residential portion of the subject property to get to that.
It does not make it landlocked. A landlocked is when you don't have access to property. You might have to have easement of some sort, but it does not make it, the property is not landlocked. A landlocked is when you can't have access and you can't get there. The only way you can get there is through with a helicopter, right? And otherwise, for that property, the one that I got as evidence, people have to wait forever before they can have, that is released by the through access of road or something, or somebody sell to other people before we can unlock it.
Okay. No further questions.
Thank you. Ms. Davidson?
I have a few questions.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to clarify. The appeal is about the amount of the assessed value, right? But we're talking right now, from what I hear, that this property has obviously a large acreage, 25 acres, which you are indicating in your view is not landlocked. So first on the landlocked, the only access, they'd have to get an easement or something from the current owner to access if they
No,
were to
it's one
subdivide.
owner, it's one person that owns the
But I
property.
meant if they were to sell any of
I
it.
beg your pardon?
If they were to ever subdivide or sell it, they wouldn't have any access.
But that's not the case here. It's not the case, we can't use hypothetical and know what you might sell next year and have a value of 2 years ago.
Okay, so the other question though is, you've raised the issue of farm, so is this classified as residential in totality, land and buildings right now?
Yes, there is a class code difference here, where it's class code 30
And 30
for
is
different
which,
use.
farm or residential?
Pardon?
What is class code 30?
Class code 30 would be farm in this
So it's
case.
farm.
Mhm.
How much of the land is farm?
I believe it's a plus or minus 18 acres.
I'm just missing, where does it say that?
On the front. Oh, sorry. Oh, no.
It's part of the applicant's.
Oh, on there, sorry, on the applicant's.
Part of the applicant's
Right, okay.
presentation.
So 18 acres is farm, and the rest is residential, the land portion, the remaining of the land and the building, right?
Yeah, the 5 acres support the
You've assigned 5
residential
acres to
portion, yes.
residential.
Mhm.
So then that means the 18 acres is currently in use, like in production as farm?
Yes, yeah, because it's being, and we have actually valued those portion of land sort of separately. But keep in mind, that does not change the fact that this property is not landlocked.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. So then you have assigned, and it's just melded together in your brief, have you assigned a different value to the farm use portion of the land?
And there is a different value, don't know if I have it off,
It's not on your
Yeah.
submission, it might be on,
probably know
his
about it too.
submission.
But I don't know that I have, and if I do have it, and I see it here, I'll let you know.
But it was, you must have blended it to come up with the total value in terms of your land, right? So you valued them differently, the farm and the 5 acre res part are valued differently.
Yeah, we can look at it in two different
Right.
fashions too. We can look at it together, which is typically what we do at all
Yeah.
times, right? The land and the house, we always value together,
Right,
right? In this case, yes, we have it a different
but that's not
value here.
showing on your brief, we'll have to look to the accountant's brief.
Yeah, I think my memory serves me right, and this is very close, and I may even have that. It's $300 and something thousand for the land, and probably closer to $180,000 for the land, the farmland, and about 300 and rest for the house.
Yeah,
The house
in
with
his
the 5
brief, though,
acres.
but not in the assessor's brief.
Not
So
the-
the other question is, at the back, you have 5 or 8 comparables. These are vacant land, right?
Mhm.
Is this vacant farmland, or is this just vacant land sales?
I have to go look at my
Is
brief.
is that the back of your brief?
And you to answer that.
Yeah, I'm guessing that.
There's a few.
Because some of these are rural, oh, I see here,
Yeah.
you have 1, 2 eggs, farm, and 3 farm, and the rest are rural residential, right? So this is to support however you split your value of the land between farm and residential, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I can see it now at the
Thank you.
podium.
Ms. Garrity?
Well, mine is simpler, but I'm not sure if it's correct or not, but you mentioned an amount that sold for $7,000 an acre, and that would make this property $126,000, because there's 18 acres. But yet it's 161, so what makes that
No,
difference?
that's not what I'm saying. But I'm glad you brought that up. The fact that you have landlocked at $7,000 an acre when you can't use it.
That was the
Right.
property with that picture you
Right,
showed us.
and so therefore the other properties, the other comparables for the land actually support it more. But to suggest that it's worth $7,000 per acre or less is not going to be right in my estimation, because this property is not landlocked. A property is landlocked, if property is landlocked and you can't use it, don't know can I use it, you can't get there. Not until it might be 10 years, it might be 20, could be 50 years or later before it actually unlocked.
Okay, thank you. And the other part of that, the only other part was in your, in the subject property with this large commercial adjacent property. How do you see that affecting it or not affecting it? Because it's in your brief. So what effect does that have on that property?
Are you referring to the bridge that I just,
The second page.
the second page here,
Under
of the.
Your subject, where you're, under your subject, under the land information?
Okay. Which property are you referring to specifically? Which one? Which-
The subject property, 2855 St. Mary?
Uh-huh. Oh, you're referring to that as the commercial and adjacent and so on. Well, that would be the same as if you look at Lot 136, St. Mary's, which is comparable number 4, also has a traffic influence, and of course, all the other property, they don't have water and sewer either. But yes, St. Mary's Road is a truck route and that, on a busy street.
So that huge commercial property next to it doesn't have any negative effect, is what you're saying?
No, you wouldn't have any negative on the property, there's the use of farm use, so I can't see that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Ramsawat, it would have been helpful if you, if we would have got off on the right foot in regards to the split code. Like, you know, the applicant has got it in his, and it's a CC 10 for the residential, and it's a CC 30 for the excess land. So,
I appreciate that,
So,
Mr.
yeah,
Chairman.
like,
I'm looking at the total
it-
value.
It was on the applicant's brief, and however, it should have been stated on here, so we wasted a lot of time.
Okay, not to worry.
The floor is yours.
Thank you. The subject property is 2855 St. Mary's Road, roll number 080006725100. I'm on page 2 of my brief. We just have a summary of the property there. As you can see, we are not contesting the residential portion. What is in question right now, as you can see, is the farm portion of the property, the agricultural land, the excess land of the subject property. We're requesting this board to reduce the value from $161,000 to $83,200. I've provided photos of just the residential portion on page 3 of my brief. And you can see on page 4 of my brief, I have provided maps of the subject property. On the first picture there just shows the overall property itself. And the second picture shows the portioning of the Class Code 10, Class Code 30. So Class Code 10, that's at 7.62 acres. Class Code 30, we got that at 18.28 acres. These are approximate measurements that we had taken from Google Maps. And I would also like to mention too that the assessed value was increased from $83,200 in 2019 to $161,000. That's a 93% increase for the 2020 assessed value. And also, I would have liked to provided the board decision on that. However, it was just a pure value. It went to the municipal board, and that is how we actually split it up, was between the residential portion and the excess land portion. I apologize if that's inappropriate. I know I didn't exactly submit that into evidence, but I just wanted to mention that. Okay, so moving on to page 6 of my brief. Again, we're not contesting the residential portion of the subject property. What is in question is the excess land portion. So it's located on a 5-acre lot area in the St. Vital Perimeter South Secondary Plan. The subject land frontage is approximately 7.62 acres, as I've said, and this leaves about 18.28 acres of excess land. We believe that this is essentially landlocked. If we were to ever sell off the excess land portion, we would need to assign a different value for that, for the 18 acres. On page 13 and 14 of my brief, I've provided page 14 and 15 of my brief. I've provided excerpts of the St. Vital Perimeter South secondary plan. You can see on page 14 the location of the subject property. It's within the 5-acre plan of St. Vital Perimeter South. It's considered low density. On page 15, it says here, to establish a low-density rural residential area and to adopt a zoning bylaw establishing a minimum site area of 5 acres and a minimum site width of 300 feet for a single-family dwelling subject to approved variations. So essentially, you can't subdivide this property. We came in with measurements of about less than 300 feet if it were to have to be subdivided. So again, for the excess land, I'm going back to page 6 now. I just wanted to show you guys the St. Vital Perimeter South Secondary Plan. Again, the excess land, it was increased from 161,000, which is a 93% increase from the 2019 assessment of $83,200. I've attached a summary of 4 comparable sales. The range of sales are from 16 cents per square foot to 25 cents a square foot. The average of the comparable sales is 19 cents per square foot and the median is 17 cents per square foot. And the summary of my comparable sales is on page 7. So you can see, in our opinion, comparable sales numbers 1, 2, 3, they are superior to the subject property. They have direct access, as I've stated here. Comparable number 1 has direct access off of Greenview Road. Comparable number 2, access off of Greenview Road as well, direct access actually. And comparable number 3, which is up close to the subject property, it was actually what Mr. Ramsalok, comparable number 3. That was number 4. Comparable number 3 is also close to the subject property and it's accessible from 2 Mile Road. And comparable number 4, that's what we have put most of our weight on. It's sold at 16 cents per square foot, 217,552 square feet. It is landlocked and it's close to the subject property and not serviced. I've provided a map of all the land sale comparables that I have on page 10. And on pages 11 and 12 and 13, you'll get close-ups of those comparable sales. Sorry to keep jumping back and forth with you guys here, but again, with that being said, only one land sale comparable, we only found one land sale comparable that would be similar to the subject property, and that is comparable number 4. Again, it's sold for 16 cents a square foot. It is landlocked, but it's smaller in relation to the subject property, so we therefore believe that for the portion of the subject property classified as farmland, that the 2020 assessed value should be maintained at its 2019 assessment of $83,200 or 10 cents per square foot. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Questions of the applicant?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Gosh, I'm looking for your last name to address you by your last name, and I'm not finding it here. Why don't you,
Mr. Oliveros.
one more time?
Mr. Oliveros.
Oliveros.
Oliveros. Mr. O, if you prefer.
Mr. O?
Mr.
You can go with that too.
I
know, I have a long last name.
Olivier, is that what it is?
Like Oliver with an OS at the end.
Olivier, okay.
Exactly.
That's close enough. All right, Mr. Olivier, you're asking for $3,500. You have 18 acres approximately. Perhaps you can do the math very quickly, or I can tell you, what is it per acre for that land?
Per acre?
You can do it, or you know what it is. How much per acre? 18 acres.
He
You're asking for
he
18.
figured it out on a square foot basis, but your question is, I guess,
My
per acre?
question is for acre, yes.
Okay.
So per acre, I figure on a square foot basis, so give me 1 second. You're talking about my revised assessment, correct?
Mhm.
Okay. 83. That's about 4,500 as 4,550 a square foot. It was 4,200 per acre, or sorry, per acre. 4,500 per acre.
Okay, thank you.
And we have 4,200 per acre in 2019.
Okay, thank you. You did mention that there was an increase of 100 and something % increase on the value. This property was not sold for us to determine the value, is that correct?
No, it was not.
Okay, all right, so you're basing it on a previous board decision, is that correct?
Essentially, yes, but as you can see, we are trying to apply a value to the excess land portion. So then we need to figure out a way to split it up, and that's how we would apply the market value for the excess land.
Can
Excess
you-
land, I assume, would have a different value than
Can
just
you
as a blended rate.
Can you explain to the panel the difference between excess land and property that is landlocked?
The difference between excess land and landlocked? Well, excess land, it would have the same highest and best use as the rest of the property. In this case, I mean residential, but we're looking at this excess land as farmland. Landlocked is if there's no direct access to a piece of land itself. And from what we're seeing here, if this portion were to ever be sold off, it would go for a different value than the residential portion.
Okay, bear with me, this property is owned by the one owner right now.
It is owned by the one owner,
Does
correct?
the owner have access to that land in the back?
The owner does have access to the land at the back, yes.
Okay, all right. So essentially it's not landlocked.
Well, actually, I would say that essentially it is landlocked because we're trying to assign a value to
Does the owner,
it.
okay, I asked that question already, we don't want to go through when he'll make the decision. All right. I agree that it may not be able to be subdivided, but does the owner have any intention of subdividing, or what they don't think intention on his property?
From my knowledge, no, they do not have any intention of subdividing the property. And
Okay,
they.
that's all my question, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Davidson?
I have no questions, thank you.
Ms. Garrity?
I guess that clarification again, because it says, I understand your point of view that it's not landlocked, and I understand your point of view that if they were going to sell it, it would then become landlocked. And we're supposed to base it on sellable?
Well, if you're asking me the question,
Okay.
this property is not for sale right now, it's to base the property on the condition and the use it had on April 1st, 2018.
I can try to answer that, but it's up to you. That's the question I'm asked.
Well, I guess I was just referring to something that was said earlier about how you determine whether, how we base the value, and the value is based on what we could get for that land if we were to sell it. There's something that I read today that said that.
I think I know which portion you're referring to, if I could help out a little bit. if
Is
that's
it in
okay.
yours, or was it, I'm sorry, I thought it was in yours, but there, in the direct comparison, oh, sorry. The present physical asset, that part, in I guess it's in yours on page 5.
Page 5. Okay, so.
And what I was understanding was that we're to look at it as though, as if we were going to sell it. If we were going to, what would we be getting for it on that market?
Exactly.
And your point is that if we were going to sell it, just that excess land, it would then be landlocked.
That's correct,
That's
yes.
what you're saying.
Yes, because we do have it split between two. Classical's Garrity, correct? Sorry if I didn't pronounce it right. Yeah, so we are trying to separate it by class code 30 and class code 10. So yes, we are looking at it from the point as what would happen if we were to try to sell that excess land portion. Well, if we were to try to sell that excess land portion, then yes, it would become landlocked at that point.
Okay, one other question is, did you approach and find out why they increased the rate from whatever to that, by the 93% that you mentioned? Have you talked with them about that, the assessors about that?
I've spoken with Mr. Ramswak, and I believe the discrepancy between our two offices is the fact that the assessment department views this property as as accessible land, whereas we view it as landlocked land. So I believe that's the discrepancy that we're reaching there, because lands that don't have direct access, the lands that are not landlocked would typically sell for more than lands that are landlocked. So in my opinion, that's where the increase lies. And sorry, that didn't exactly answer your question, but I was not able to get exactly a direct answer, a clear answer from the assessment department. I guess I should have articulated that question a bit more efficiently to get that, but I believe that's where our discrepancies are lying.
Okay, and I don't know if I have another question. I'll wait on and see if you have any.
I have none.
Okay.
Mr. Ramsawat, summation if you desire.
Well, maybe 30 seconds, Mr. Chairman. It does look like what the issue here is trying to value the property based on two issues here. One, whether this property is landlocked or not. I say it's not. As long as the current owner owns this property, we can't determine what's going to be 2 years from now. We're not trying to get a value 2 or 3 years from now. They may never sell the property, period. In 20 years, it might go from one generation to the next. So that's the two issues. Landlocked versus not. I say not landlocked, and the idea of values is got to be based on April 1st, 2018, and not in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Summation?
Yes, please. So again, we're requesting this board to decrease the value, or decrease the assessed value of the farm, or of the excess land from 161,000 to 83,200. Our main argument behind that is because the excess land portion, if it were to sell on the market, is essentially landlocked. It cannot be subdivided based on the comparable sales that we have provided to this board this afternoon. Again, we believe that the assessed value should be reduced from 161,000 to 83,200, or 10 cents a square foot.
I thank you, sir. So thank you for your presentation, and that concludes your hearing here, so results very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go to Forbes Road, Mr. Newfield. It's item number 4. We'll have you affirm, Mr. Newfield. Let's go. 1447.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't know that. Didn't know that.
Withdrawn.
Thank you.
I just found it.
Okay, good, thanks. Moving right along then, eh?
Yep.
State your full name,
Graham Newfield?
and do you affirm that the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, but nothing but the truth?
Yes.
And you have some evidence for the board? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Ramsawat, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, for the property known as 541 Forbes Road, roll number 080-0692950, and a brief description of the property is one-story single-family home built in 1972, 1,005 square feet, full basement with some development in the basement, and a double detached garage as well as a double attached garage on probably about 3 acres of lot, 130 square feet, $446,000. Now before I start making the, describing the comparables and support the value of the subject property, I do want to mention, because this is not supposed to be in your evidence, but just for the record, I would have liked to see this property, Mr. Chairman. I did ask, I did make a request, and again, it's not an evidence, but it's a record that I have here. I made a request on 4:26 p.m. on Wednesday, the 18th of September, to see his property. And at 4:29 p.m., I got a response from Mr. Neufeld, that's his Rocky Neufeld, and that it says here, they cannot arrange in such a short notice. The owner does work on shift. Only point I'm trying to make here, in 3 minutes after sending an email and getting a response in 3 mail, I don't know that it's possible to make a phone call to somebody and get that information so quickly. That's for the record. Now, I'm gonna move on now to support the subject property of $456,000. Now I have 4 comparables here. They're all in the same neighborhood characteristic area. Each of the properties are single family, 1-story home. Comparable number 1 on 180 Paul Boulevard, built in 1974 with an effective age change and about the same size of the building with a full basement and some development in the basement. A lot size that is larger than that of the subject property, and it is $466,000. Comparable number 2 on 546 Forbes, same street or road as the case may be, but on the opposite side. And this looks very much like this would be obliquely opposite from the address, 541 for the subject property, 536 for that of the first comparable, or the second comparable rather. This house was built in 1962, and the effective age change on that is comparable to that of the subject property in 1972. It's smaller, slightly, full basement and some development in the basement. A lot slightly larger, and it's $437,000 is the value on this one. Comparable number 3 then on 608 Forbes Road, single family built in 1946 and have an effective age of 1966 and about the same size of the property, subject property. Slightly larger lot on $427,000 is the assessed value. And then comparable number 4 on 421 Fraser Road. 1977 is the year built with an effective age change and a larger property, a larger house, larger lot size, and 486. Again, I did mention, Mr. Chairman, that these properties comparable sort of support that of the subject. However, I see difference in the land, and the reason I could not even try to make a recommendation on something like this, because I would have liked to see the property and I didn't get to see it, and therefore I ask that you confirm the value at $456,000. Thank you.
I thank you. Questions of the assessor?
Yes. So when researching your comparables, did you factor in, did you consider making any adjustments for the difference in land? Because it is about a difference of 2 acres or so.
Because I don't hear, I beg your pardon.
Did you consider any adjustments for the land difference?
Well, it's sort of, looking at it here, I know that there's differences and therefore we have to make a reconciliation for the land, yes. Typically, when it's being calibrated, it's always going to factor in the size of the land, whether it be excess or otherwise, and or surplus, whatever, and the building and everything, yes.
So, do you have any numbers worked out for the land difference, or?
I did not check it out. I did not check to see if in this particular case, if what the land is used for, it's a small portion of land. It probably only has about 3 acres possibly, and so therefore I didn't. I don't think it will be for any other use except for residential.
Okay. That's it for.
Thank you. Ms. Davidson?
Just so I'm clear, so the subject is 3 acres, the others are larger acreage. The effective ages vary. The subject is 1972, some are much newer, a couple others are similar. So was there an adjustment then for the lower acreage, or are they all assessed at the same or assessment per square foot or acreage?
We would have absolutely have to take all of these things into consideration. If the lot is larger, we will take that into consideration when the values are being calibrated. And if it's smaller, we take that into consideration too when the values are being calibrated. And again, because I didn't see the property, I could not make any recommendation.
So I'm still not sure, so it was taken into account in terms of the overall
Always taken
value?
into consideration, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Garrity?
No, I don't have any questions, thank you.
I just have a couple questions, just to interrupt. Pardon me. On your comparable, number 2 and number 3, they're on the subject's street, and they're probably fairly close to the subject. You know, one is probably just a few houses away, and it's very similar. So I'm looking at the price that it sells before or any time adjustments or anything like that. So they're all considerably lower than the assessment. So why wouldn't you be down lower in regards to?
I wanted to see the property, Mr. Chair, when I pointed that out in part of the thing here, and hold on a second, I think I should maybe just pass that information to you. I did try to make a thing, I did ask, and in 3 minutes I get back a phone call. There's no point trying to find out what's going on. I could not see the property, and that's my reason.
Well, you made a bona fide, inquiry, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
you can look at the date my email was sent out and the date it was received, or the time rather, more than date.
All right. Just hang on to that. So, given the opportunity to view the house,
Or lack of opportunity.
yeah,
Mhm.
okay. I won't pursue that matter. Mr. Newfield, the floor is yours.
Okay, so, I guess this will save some time. We actually have the same comparables for the property. And as you can see, the average price per square foot is lower than the assessment on all of those comparables. Now, however, yeah, because I tried to look at an adjustment for the land, I did look up sales. It came up to 45,000 an acre, and I realized that was, well, that just didn't work. That was too big of a difference, and I realized with these larger lots, yeah, you're pretty much paying more for the first acre where your house is on versus the last 4. So we looked at the lots themselves, and I did include an overhead of 421 Fraser Road, as well as 541 Forbes. And you can see that, sorry, I should have included overheads of all 4, but there is an overhead map of all 4 in Mr. Ramsar's screen as well. And as you can see, the 2 on Forbes are much more traditionally shaped lots. You have a 5-acre lot on Forbes there, and I can imagine you want some privacy in those back few acres, whereas 541 is pretty much all frontage. So because of that, we decided to rely on the sale on 421 Fraser, as we believe it is the most similar in terms of the land, the shape of the land, and the frontage that the land occupies. And yes, and that sale brings us to a value of 409,000.
And is that your presentation, Mr. Phil?
Yes. And I do want to point out, I realize we're asking for lower than the 18 assessment. The owner, he did miss the deadline on it that year. That's, normally we would have appealed that, but, yeah. And yes, that's all.
Thank you. Questions of
I
the
have no
applicant?
questions, Mr. Chairman.
No? Ms. Davidson?
I have no questions, thank you.
Ms. Garrity?
No, I have no questions.
Mr. Newfield, you, so your conclusion is a sale price according to land and building and not separating them or anything like that? They're just so a
Yes.
ballpark figure would be the, in that range? eh?
Yes, yeah, there's a lot of estimations, especially, after looking at some of the land sales, how they were just asking for too much really, so had to,
Right.
yeah, make some estimates there.
I thank you. Either party wants summation? 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 You go.
No.
Okay. Thank you for coming
To the point.
this afternoon. Results very soon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Waterton Drive, number 19. Have you sworn in or affirmed, either one confirmed?
Affirm. You affirm that the evidence you are about to present is the whole truth, nothing but the truth, and nothing else.
Sure,
Yes.
yes.
Do you have any evidence you would like to present?
Yes.
Oh.
Ryan Clausen.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Well, Mr. Clausen, I don't really have to apologize for any delays, because we're rolling along here pretty
This is
good, so.
working great.
Yeah. So, Mr. Renzelot, whenever you're ready, you can take us through the property.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, property known as 19 Waterton Drive, the roll number 060-930-83400 in Royalwood. It's a one-story, little description of the property, one-story single family. It was built in 2006 with almost 2,400 square feet and a walkout basement. We have a 1,595 square feet of development in the basement from our records. It is about a third of an acre, 13,000 square feet, a little under a third of an acre actually. And I have 4 comparables here. Comparable number 1, 71 Westwater Drive. One-story single-family home built in 2004, smaller home with a walkout basement. The lot size that is almost similar to that of the subject property is $842,500 as the value. Comparable number 2 then is on 119 Yorkwood Drive, built in 2005, and it's just a tad smaller than the subject property by about 50 square feet. Actually, that would be 150 square feet, beg your pardon. A lot size that is slightly larger, and it's $882,000 for the value of that comparable number 2. Then there is comparable number 3 at 87 Northport Bay. One-story single family built in 2006. Smaller home, much smaller in this case than that of the subject property. A lot size that is almost similar to that of the subject property, and it's $827,000 for value. And lastly, comparable number 4 on 14 Bridgetown Drive. It's a one-story single family built in 2006. About 160 square feet smaller than that of the subject property, has a scene river influence and $883,000. Now, the difference I see here with the subject property and those of the comparables, I think that it's a somewhat, well, you might think that it's somewhat superior in my opinion when I start looking at the pictures and the only properties that were sold previously. That said, 800, I don't know if I mentioned this, you may have $1,048,000, do you? Is that what you have for the assessment? I
Yeah.
have, yes, I have spoken to her, because it's probably low, right, for a moment there, and I said to her that knowing this property was sold before and I could not rely on the sale, I couldn't do much more than making an adjustment for $987,000. So you treat it as $987,000 instead of $1,048,000, and the rest is up to you, Mr. Chairman.
987,
Yes.
Mr. Clausen, in agreement, or you still want to pursue it?
Still pursue.
Okay. I think he thanks you for your offer, and we'll just continue. Mr. Ramsawat?
I beg your pardon?
He's not in agreement?
Oh, yeah, that, of
Okay,
course, yeah,
okay,
I understand. I expect that, that's what you hear, you know?
Are you finished your presentation?
Yes, I am, thank you.
Mr. Clausen, questions?
Yes, a couple, please. So first, when assessing the value, do the number of bedrooms and the size of bedrooms taken into consideration?
No, typically we don't take into consideration number of bedrooms or so, does not drive values. In other words, we put everything into to try to determine the value, and it's never number of bedrooms. What is more predominant? There are more things than just the size of the home. To tell you a few things, location would be one, the type of home, the age of the home, the size of the home, the size of the lot, and other contributory value such as the basement, walkout basement. Location would be on the river, in this case on the detention pond, and any other contributory value that you would have. That would drive the value, but not number of bedrooms.
So the Board of Revision guidelines that state the sales comparisons should include things like number and size of bedrooms is not correct?
Because I don't hear very well, I don't want to miss anything. I would say again that when you take into consideration whatever or whoever said that number of bedrooms to drive value, I say to you today, by having a number of bedrooms in the home is not taken into consideration when we determine the value of the home.
Okay, so I guess that's a decision for the board then in terms of its guidelines that it issues for these types of appeals. Second question then, you said the offer of reducing the assessment roll to 987.
Yeah, I made an adjustment to make it 987 to make a presentation for that number.
Is there any information about how you arrived at that determination versus the previous one?
When I looked at the other properties and so on, I did make a consideration that maybe the quality of your home, perhaps to downgrade it a little bit to determine that it should be lower than the $1,048,000.
Was there any request to view the home to assess the quality?
Pardon me?
Has there been any request by
No,
your
I didn't,
office to review the home to
I
assess
didn't
the
make a
quality?
request to see it, no.
You did not, okay. Okay. So you don't have any information that would suggest the quality differences between the house?
No, I would have looked at the previous listing on 2008 when it was sold. That's a long time ago.
Yes. Okay. Those are my only questions,
I
Mr.
thank you,
Chairman.
Mr. Clausen. Ms. Davidson?
I have a couple of questions. On the assessment roll, it's over $1 million, so I mean, that's a house, that's from 2006. And you've offered 987, which the appellant hasn't accepted. So even at the 987, it's still $412 a square foot, which is still higher than the other comparables except for number 3 on a square foot basis. So you've indicated that you haven't inspected it. On the roll, on your file, is what condition does this property show versus the other 4 comparables? The interior and exterior.
Well, actually, because I know it's probably sold recently, I took the pictures, I looked at the comparables on the picture, and I looked at the other one.
The
I may not
pictures,
deter-
sorry, the MLS pictures?
Yeah, I looked at MLS picture in his home when he bought it, and I looked at the other. See, I wouldn't just look at one the subject without looking at the comparables.
But on your files right now, like in your assessment file on each property, is it listed as average, above average, fair? Like what are they listed at?
Well,
Like I understand how you got to that, but what are they actually showing on your file?
yeah, properties like this, they're not, we don't record them as average, we record these properties as excellent or very good.
So
and that
on
kind
your
of thing.
file, they're all showing as
Yes, they're way
excellent?
above averages,
So they're all classified the
as well
same?
as the comparables, every single comparable here,
But they're all classified the same,
higher than average.
yet the assessment is still, even your offer is higher than the other comparables?
I recognize that, and when the property, and I didn't mention a post-reference sale, all I did was mention the time it is sold, and that's what it is. So our hands are basically tied when we look at this, so I'm leaving it to the panel.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes.
I thank you. Ms. Garrity,
No questions?
no questions? Yeah, I just find the assessment seems to be high compared to the comparables, so, and even the recommendation is a bit high for the subject. Anyways, Mr. Clausen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So yes, that is the same reason I declined the offer is you will see the comparables, and the comparables are the ones that I looked at as well and didn't submit because they were submitted by the assessor. Comparables are high, and so what I can submit as part of my evidence is the property did recently sold, and I recently acquired the property. And so what you will see in front of you is it was a arm's length sale through a real estate broker. It was on the market for 2 months, and so ample time for the market to assess its value. And the property sold as of May 9th, the date I purchased it, for $910,000. And so recognize that that is May 9th of 2019, and this assessment is to be as of April 1st, 2018. And so you will see I've also included the Winnipeg real estate market stats for year-over-year average house sales. And I would believe the department would have a greater accuracy in calculating that, but this was the best accuracy that I could find that showed that average market values for residential detached in the southeast portion of the city, which is where this is located, have increased year-over-year by 2.35%. So based on the 2.35%, I would submit that the proper assessed value for April of 2018 would be $889,100. $889,100.
Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Clausen. Mr. Ramsey, what questions?
No, I don't have any question, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Davidson?
I just have a quick one for the assessor. What is the assessment department's increase in market value for this neighborhood or market region? He's given us the MLS one, but what is the assessment department's?
That region is 4.21%.
4.21?
4.21%.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Garrity?
No question.
I just have a couple of questions for Mr. Clausen. You purchased this through MLS?
Correct.
Okay. And I think you had said that the house was up for sale for a couple months?
Yes, you'll notice on the front page of the listing, it was listed in March 2nd of 2019, and the date of purchase was May the 9th.
And did you have the property appraised at all, or, you know, when you bought it, or
The mortgage company appraised it.
Okay.
I did not get an appraised value.
But they concluded
approved the
concluded
mortgage.
value?
Yes.
Okay. And standard financing on the house or anything like, no vendor take back or anything like that?
None, you'll see the offer is very clean
Okay.
in regards to
Yeah.
that.
And you're in possession of it now?
Correct.
Okay, I thank you. Either party wants summation?
No,
No? Mr. Clausen?
No, thank you.
Okay, I thank you for coming this afternoon and
Just what was
results.
that last amount that you mentioned that you thought it should be? I didn't write that down, sorry.
Based on the 2.35% increase in value, it would work back to 889,100.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Clausen, and results very soon.
Thanks.
Number 3, both you, number 9 on our docket. Okay. We'll have you sworn in or affirmed, either one.
I would be asking to swear on the fire to affirm that.
Number 9 on your docket.
Please state your full name.
Greg Costa.
Do you swear that you're
Okay.
about to tell
Okay.
that the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay, and do you have any evidence you would like to share with us?
I do, but I didn't make copies for everybody, but
Okay, just one copy.
I did just bring one copy of things, I didn't know how the things worked.
Slap his wrist. No, that's,
Do you want us to make copies?
yes, I think we should, yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
So
that's
we'll
okay.
We'll take a recess,
Okay,
okay?
we'll take a 5-minute recess, okay? All right, we'll call a meeting back to order, and we'll deal with your property, so, Mr. Ramsawat, whenever you're ready, you can take us through the property.
Great.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, now for number 3, how do you pronounce it? Bupui?
Both right?
Was he
Bupui?
sworn in?
Thank you.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I may forget and ask again.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay,
Thanks.
alrighty, roll number 060-028-61400. Got a little bit about the subject property, it's a 4-level split. Single family home built in 1986 with no record of any upgrades in the property that we know of. 1,769 square feet. It's got a full basement, but there is some development in the basement as per records. That shows about 350 square feet. The lot size, 4855 square feet. $353,000 is the assessment on the property for 2020. There are 4 comparables that I have here. Each of these comparables is in Island Lake. Each of them is a 4-level split, and they're each single-family dwelling. Comparable number 1 was built in 1991. It's about the same size of that of the subject property with no finish in the basement, and a slightly larger lot, and $366,000 is the value on that.
Can I stop you there though? Can you make sure you guys check out the land information? Because I think that's the biggest problem that you're gonna find with this property compared to all comparables in Island Lakes.
Okay.
So when you
We'll
look
we'll
into land
just,
information.
we'll just let the assessor, and then you can ask all kinds of questions, okay?
Yeah, okay. All right, slightly larger lot, and that probably accounts for a $13,000 difference higher in value than that of the subject property. Comparable number 2, not to mention there's no finished basement. Comparable number 2 then on 66 Smuggler Cove, built in 1989, about the same size of property with a full basement. Again, there's no finishing in the basement. A lot size that is slightly larger than that of this subject property. $340,000 is the value on comparable number 2. Then there's comparable number 3, number 30 Leisure Crescent, built in 1988. It's almost 100 square feet larger than that of the subject property, and a lot size that is not much larger than that of the subject. It does have a basement finish that is equal to that of the subject property, and it's $386,000 value. Comparable number 4 then on 124 Cassian Crescent, built in 1988. It's about 100 and maybe 20 square feet larger than that of the subject property, with the rec room area that's about the same size of that of the subject property. Lot size that is larger than that of the subject property is $364,700. Perhaps a larger lot would account for a difference in value, higher difference in value. Those are the 4 comparables that support the value of the subject property, and that's my presentation, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions of the assessor?
No, I think when you do comparables, you can't compare it when you look at where the property is located, when you take my house in consideration. I have a apartment block across the street, none of your comparables have that for viewing. I am on a street that has 2-hour limited parking, none of your comparables have that. I'm on a house that is a corner lot. I deal with snow things that are in your handout, and I also have a bus route that goes down my street. None of your comparables have that.
It sounds very much like part of your presentation, but your question
Yeah,
is...
it will be, don't worry, okay, we'll get there.
Okay.
But my same question would be with you, because I've had a number of real estate agents come through my property and look at it. And I don't know why you guys have not come down to my property and looked at it. Comparables are one thing, and I've included a number in my presentation as well. But comparables don't really mean anything when you're dealing with this particular lot.
We don't get to inspect all the properties, unfortunately, because of timing. I come here, and still I don't even get to do all the researches as I would like to. Sometimes I'm just short of researches alone. So if I were to take the time to go over, see every property, is going to be difficult. Not that I don't want to.
I think that
Sometimes some people insist. Sometimes we really want to see some of them. But when we look at the properties, like they're highly similar to yours, the best thing we can do is to come here.
More questions of the assessor? No. Ms. Davidson?
I have a question on the comparables. In the subject property, I'm noting that you have his land lot size of 4,800 square feet, but you have the influence showing as commercial adjacent external corner. And when you gave your presentation, you indicated that in comp 1, there was a differential of approximately 13,000 between the two because he had a larger lot. What would you say the differential in terms of having commercial adjacent and external is to the value? Like, how much did you discount the land value due to those factors? Like, how many thousands are commercial adjacent external corner worth, so to speak?
See, when these properties are all being assessed on the mass appraisal system,
Yes.
everything is taken into consideration, but to suggest that there are certain values here that I can tell you, I would not have that information. I hate to say that. So what I do instead is to reconcile by just looking at it and say, okay, here is a property that has a little bit contributory value here, and we take away from what it doesn't have.
Right.
So when we try to reconcile, now we look at it, how much does a property contribute to our property, and then we also look into conservation. If it doesn't have certain features on it, how much it doesn't contribute to property.
Absolutely.
And therefore we do, and that's part of the reconciliation. And this is for every time we come here.
Okay,
So
I
to answer your
understand.
question, there'd only be 3 houses similar to mine
Okay.
in all of Island Lakes.
Thank you. I understand that, but when you're doing that reconciliation, can you just give us a sense of what the reconciliation is on this property, given that it's 86 and most of the other comps are similar time, the living area is similar, but the lot is where things come in differently. Like the size is different a little bit, and then there's those commercials. So when you do that reconciliation, is there an amount you would have assigned for that?
That's a very good question. I can lead you then to a case study. Let me just look at it so I can tell you what the case study is all about. It might be a while for me to find. Actually, if you were to look at it, you have that, I always produce one. It's on the Lila Farm property. The very last paragraph, the very last sentence of that, the very last sentence, it talks about degree of tolerance.
Yes.
Something like that. And so to answer the question then, when we look at it this way, we look that there might be a little bit of difference, a few $1,000 here and there, that degree of tolerance is acceptable by the courts.
So it wasn't about reconciliation, it's about the degree of tolerance in your mass appraisal approach? Sorry, it's not about that a reconciliation was done, it sounds like you're saying that it's just within the accepted degree of tolerance in mass appraisal methodology.
Okay, actually, right here, when we do a specific properties such as this is where we do reconciliation. We don't do reconciliation in mass appraisal, but we do it when we do it on either appraise one property or we look at one. So yes, this is here with you and reconciling your differences.
But at this point in time, we don't have a number to assign to the influence of commercial adjacent external corner.
Very simply, I would say my number at 353, I would ask that you conform it. Very simple. So my number in is $353,000.
Thank you. Thanks.
you.
Ms. Garrity?
No questions.
The floor is yours, sir.
Okay. Well, I had a number of real estate agents that come through the property to get an assessment of the value. I left here with one, and I was the average one, and they're looking at 325 to 332 is what I can be expecting. I think that's your first handout. So that's what a real estate agent has appraised my property at. The second one, the second page in my handout, is the sales summary of my home when I bought it. Again, that was 2011, but it was bought for $280, and you guys are putting it at $353 right now. That is an increase of $72,500, and that is in the ballpark of a 4.5% increase annually. And I was instructed by real estate agents that it's probably about a 2 to 3% is what you can expect on an annual increase. So heavy appreciation, I think, in the home. As you can see on the home summary as well, when it was listed in 2011, it was a very hot real estate market. They were looking for around $300,000, and I got the house for $280,000. It was on the market for a number of days, and what you'll find out is it's really location is what hurts this property. The third page in my handout is a listing of a home. It's actually 2 houses away from me at 14 Beaupré Bay, and they listed it at $309,000. Again, it's a smaller home, but I think the problem the city has with assessing Island Lakes is it's going through a number of developments. So you can look at comparables, but there's 3 phases of development that are going through at Island Lakes. These homes that I lived in, and the one that you see on my street is phase 1. Some of these homes are phase 2 and phase 3 in your comparables. Around page 8 or 9 in the handout presentation I have, you'll see some comparables that I prepared as well of recent Island Lakes sales. So I have sell price of $332, sell price of $345, sell price of $311. So with comparables, I think we can both find stuff that are going to work our case better. So in the handout, you'll see 3 comparables that sold in Island Lakes recently, all less than, considerably less than what you expect from my home to sell, and less than what your comparables that you guys have prepared.
And that's your presentation, sir?
No, well, then I'll take you to where there's a number of pictures, and this is where I think the property issues really come into play. So your first issue, or first picture would look something like this, and this is going to be the view out of my front window. This is the view out of my living room window. So the location and view, I think, really hurt this property. As I mentioned, all my visitors are prone to a 2-hour parking, where no one else in Island Lakes would have that. Because of that apartment block, the city have put up a 2-hour parking ban. Anytime I have company over, they have to move their car after 2 hours of visiting me and come back in that. So I don't think anything in Island Lakes is comparable to that. Again, there's another view of the apartment situation. Fourth picture shows a bus stop that runs through my street. So again, when you talk comparables in Island Lakes, I don't think any of these comparables deal with the issues that this location does. There are snow clearing issues based on being on a corner lot, whereas piles are put onto my property each winter. It leads to a lot of damage, where every spring I'm doing resodding, reseeding, and all that type of stuff. So again, this location of the home is what really is the detriment to this home. And I think from the assessment standpoint, you really need to come to the location of the home to really get an accurate picture of what's happening.
So the value that you're seeking is 325 to
I
3...
think, honestly, the
32.
average I got was 333.
And that's what you're wanting.
Give me less if you like, but let you guys make your.
Well, that is what you're requesting. All right, is that your presentation?
Yes.
Mr. Renta, what, any questions, please?
No question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Ms. Davidson?
Just a really quick question. When you bought your house in 2011, did the apartment block exist at
Yes.
that time?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Garrity?
No question.
I just have one question. The figures that I had mentioned, it was, that was through an agent, and that was just in September
Yeah.
last month, eh?
Yep.
So our V-Day that we're after is April the 1st, 2018, okay? So is that what he concluded in regards to a V-Day of that date?
No.
No,
This is
okay.
today's
This is
date, so
current.
it'd probably be
This is
less than if we're going back to 2018.
Yeah, okay. Do you have a front drive or anything like that?
The home is situated really strangely. The home is listed as 3 Beaupre Bay, but my front door actually faces Charbonneau. I have a detached garage that faces Charbonneau.
Double detached or single?
Single.
Single? Okay, but no front access?
No.
Okay. All right.
And a single door. I have one entryway in and out of my house where other homes would have a front door and a back
So
door.
this one that you give us down the street, number 14, that's got a front drive and
Yep.
an attached
'Cause
garage?
it's legitimately located on Beaupre, but for whatever reason, my house says 3 Beaupre Bay, but my front door and only door faces Charbonneau Crescent.
All right. All right, summation if you want?
No.
No?
No, I'm good, Mr. Chairman.
Anything further you want to add?
No, I thank you for your time.
Okay, I thank you for coming this afternoon, and results very soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank
The
you.
rest of it?
Thank you. I think we're going to go to High Ridge Road. You Come on up and we'll get you sworn in, or affirmed, either one.
You have the option to swear in. Okay, perfect. Please state your full name. And do you swear that the evidence that you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and nothing but the truth? Perfect. I do have some evidence to present. Thank you.
So you're okay for parking for the time being? Okay, good.
Thank you.
All right, whenever you're ready, you can take us through this property.
Okay, 31 High Ridge Road, subject property, roll number 060-050-29600 in Royal Wood. With description of the property, it's a single family, 1-story home, it was built in 1994, 1,374 square feet. But what we have has about 800 square feet of finished basement. 10,050 square feet size of the lot. The lot I would describe is irregular shape, and it is in a cul-de-sac. $424,000 is the assessed value on it for 2020. And we have 4 comparables here. Comparable number 1 and 4 are in Royal Wood. Comparable number 2 is in Southland Park, and comparable number 3, is in Highland Lake. Now, each of these comparables are 1-story single-family home, and they were built roughly around the same time, give or take a few years in difference. The comparable being 1994 is not that much older than the other ones that are from 1995 to 1998. Okay, so now comparable number 1, 92 Norcross Crescent, a brief description of that. 1,553 square feet, 179 square feet larger than that of the subject property, and a basement development that is half the size of that of the subject, just 345 square feet. A lot size that is half the size of the subject property and is $407,000 is the value on comparable number 1. So what I see there as a difference is a location to determine other values, or should I say superior value. Comparable number 2 then is on 99 Copperstone. 1 story, built in 1996. It's 1,429 square feet, say about 100, pardon me, it's about 50 square feet, maybe 60 square feet larger than that of the subject property, and 1,000 square feet development. A lot size that is 6,700 square feet, and it's $430,000 for this comparable. Now, with only a 55 square feet difference in size, and bigger that is than the subject property, a rec room area is 200 square feet larger than that of the subject property, and a lot size that is not necessarily so much the lot size, but more the location of being in a cul-de-sac. And we see a $430,000 value would certainly support the value of the subject property. Comparable number 3 then, number 32 Camirant Crescent, 1 story, built in 1995, 1,482 square feet. I'll give you 180 square feet larger. A rec room area that is 696 square feet, and a lot size that is considerably smaller, again because of the location, $407,000. We see a locational difference with the cul-de-sac, and that would be more desirable. Comparable number 4 then in number 26 Picton Crescent, 1,497 square feet, which is 123 square feet larger, and a rec room area that is similar, and the lot size 7,131 square feet, and a value that supports the value of the subject property at $431,000. And that is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McMullen, any questions of the assessor?
You've mentioned cul-de-sac a couple of times. Does the assessment department make any distinctions between different cul-de-sacs?
Well, there's always market evidence that are available out there that shows that a property on a cul-de-sac for residential is very much more desirable than a property that is not. And so when again we use the word reconcile, so when we reconcile the differences, one would actually think that a property on a cul-de-sac being more desirable would have a little bit more value to it than one that isn't. Personally, I don't live on a cul-de-sac, but I wish if I did. But you can take that off the record.
Even if that cul-de-sac backs on Bishop Grandin Boulevard?
I had a look at it on the aerial map, but I don't recall specifically what it's backing on.
Yeah. Okay. And these, you didn't have any comparables on High Ridge Road?
Well, that's always a good question when, you know, something like this is worth addressing. The reality is that if there were properties on High Ridge Road, or more especially in the cul-de-sac, and would have those kind of features or characteristics of one-story built around the same time, around the same square footage, and then yes, I'll throw it in. However, if there was a property on High Ridge Road and that was considerably different, let's say different type, if it's a two-story, I wouldn't throw it in. If it is much smaller or much larger, I wouldn't throw it in. If it was sold like 3 years ago, I wouldn't throw it in, that kind of thing, you know.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Davidson?
Just a quick question, in terms of the land influence, I've seen others at this, you know, about impact of noise. So there's no, given that it does back onto Bishop Grandin, that's not viewed as a land influence in terms of the noise and the activity on Bishop Grandin?
Well, very good question again. I'll tell you what, there are times such as this whereby it doesn't come to our attention to take it into consideration and actually record it, excuse me, and keep it there for that purpose. Would some people not want to go there because it's so busy perhaps? Yeah, that's very possible. And so that would be taken into consideration somewhat. You might want to take that into consideration right now.
But typically are the houses along these major routes, are they, is that land influence of noise taken into account?
What, the size of the
No, just based on what streets they back onto, like Bishop Grandin, Lagimodier, I guess there's not that many houses backing on that street, but like, is that typically viewed as land influence?
Well, with Bishop Grandin, if my memory serves me right, there are certain, there was some space or canal, not a canal, maybe in some areas, it's a bit farther away from Bishop Grandin than it is, no?
Not on High Ridge though, unfortunately.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
I don't know everything, and I don't know every square foot. I can't know every square foot of land or location in the city.
Of course not.
All right? And so, not that I've never driven on Bishop Grandin before, I have, and I know it's supposed to be what they call a freeway. Certainly in the States they call it freeway and whatever. You know, they drive at 100 miles an hour, would you believe, in certain areas on the freeway. In Manhattan they drive along the freeway, they drive 60, 70 miles an hour. But, you know, that's it. Having said that, yeah, that would be probably, you might want to take that into consideration.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Garrity?
Yeah, that was kind of what I was kind of going on too. I had the backing onto the Bishop Grandin, but the other was, your question, following up, was the comparables, and when you look at them, they're all so much smaller, and they're not laid out or in the same kind of an area. So the cul-de-sac is kind of a pie-shaped property which extends quite a ways back. So I don't know how you compare that. That's the part I would have when you're comparing a 10,000 square foot property.
Yeah, you know, that's why you have to use that magic word. You always have to reconcile. No two properties going to be the same. No, even on High Ridge Road, there are few properties that have the irregular lot size, and usually the ones that are coming on closer to the outside of a major street or something like that, and those are the ones that would probably have a rectangular lot. However, if a property was sold that is similar in most, was highly similar in so many other characteristics, with the exception of the irregular lot size, yes, we'd compare it to that. But through the reconciliation process, we'll determine then which one is more favorable. Or certainly purchasers determine that when they buy any property, and we see that as market evidence. But right now, we don't have that, and yes, it's not uncalled for to use these properties for what it is. These properties that were selected, they're more highly similar based on all these other characteristics of the subject property. That's why they were being used. They're not going to be sold for the same value. They're all going to be one higher or lower and that kind of thing, as they are in age and size.
Okay, but the drawing that you provided with, there seems to be other properties that would have more suited in shape than the ones that were chosen. So is there not a way to look at something that is more,
Not if it's not sold.
okay,
If it's not
Okay.
sold, we just can't use it,
okay,
right?
all right, thank you.
Okay.
I thank you. Ms. McMillan, your presentation.
First of all, I feel like I owe you an apology because everybody else was got reams of paper and I got one page.
That's fine.
I think the basis of my objection to this assessment at 424 was based on two things. One is that we continually see our property, I used to say we, but it's just me now, continually see it saying nothing about site, what's the word that you use, site influence or whatever? Forgotten the correct terminology, but it never says heavy traffic. And I believe that is because on this little cul-de-sac, which is very tiny, but my neighbor's backyard does cut across the back of my backyard by a few feet. But because of the angles and everything, our two houses from my bedroom window and his bedroom window to Bishop Grannon is the same distance. I get the same noise that he does. But I'm not called heavy traffic influence because his yard does go slightly in the back of mine. So that's one factor that I think I would appreciate being considered. Also, I think we're in phase 1 of Royalwood. The quality of the houses nowhere near what the later phases were. The builder was a lower level builder. The quality of the house I'm in is, I'm fine in it, it's just me, but there's several things that are not that high level. And I think a lot of the things were maybe done by the previous owners, not by a proper contractor. Since my husband and I bought the house in 2010, we have done no renovations. He was not a handyman, so nothing has been done to it. It's exactly the same. The one comparison that I have, comparable, that I think is most significant is directly across the street from me, not in the cul-de-sac, just across the street. So granted, she has a smaller yard, but no heavy traffic because her backyard and her bedrooms likewise are in a quiet area. It's the exact same house, floor plan and everything. And it sold in September, in the summer, for $375. Am I looking at the wrong page?
Yep, no, that is perfectly fine. 375,000.
375,501, yes.
Yep.
That house was for sale for almost a year. They had it on the market last September through the winter, the spring, didn't sell. And, I didn't include the pictures of it, but it's lovely, it's fine. But the market tends to want to go to the newer houses. These are 25 years old. And I think that's been a factor. And there's also, of course, a lot of nicer, newer bungalows in Sage Creek and the Bridgewater Forest and the other area that's south of Southdale, I forgot what that's called, Bona Vista, I think it is. So there's a lot of competition out there for this bungalow. The comparables that I did put down, I apologize, I did put some just with their appraised value. I didn't quite get that we weren't supposed to do that, but you can see it. Most of them are of the same square footage, are lower than mine. The two I put on there that sold on High Ridge in 2016 were 2 stories, but much larger square footage, and yet their appraisal is lower still. And of course, their sale price was considerably lower. So I leave it with you. Thank you.
I thank you. Questions of the applicant?
Well, typically, Mr. Chairman, as you would expect, see something like this, I would need to find out of these properties here that you have, how many of them have been sold that you know of and when?
I couldn't, like when I looked on the sales on your site, I only saw 74 and 61 and 34 wasn't even on there yet. It just sold. So those were the only two I saw that sold in the last, I guess it would be 3 years.
Okay, so some of them were sold and some of them were not? Is that what I'm hearing? Or all of them were
The other
sold?
houses I have on here, that's right, I'm sorry, yes. I included them on there because I noticed their appraisal was considerably lower than mine, and some of them are the identical houses, like number 85, it's the identical house. And its assessment is 360, mine's 424. You know?
I'm missing something here. Okay, take 85 you mentioned. You have the $360,000, is that an assessed value or is that a sale value?
Assessed value.
That's assessed value.
Yeah.
And was it ever sold that you know of?
I couldn't see, I don't know how to find that information
Okay,
because on the city's website, it only shows within the last 3 years.
Okay. Well, it's kind of difficult here. I think the panel also would like to find out which of these properties have been sold. If they have never ever been sold, and it is only the assessment, unfortunately, I don't think that the panel is obligated to take that value. And they will tell you that, you probably have done that already, but eventually they'll make your own decision. And that's what I need to know as well, so that when you are comparing these properties, you want to compare the properties that are sold only, and usually with a time adjustment, in which case that's the value used. And it's one of the pieces of information I always give to appellants.
Yes.
You'll see that it's marked headline, Lila Park Properties. I encourage you to read that,
Yeah.
so you'll know. I don't have any other question, Mr. Chairman. I could go on and ask each one of these properties what was sold and what wasn't. I think maybe you would want to do that.
I thank you. Ms. Davidson?
I have no questions, thank you. Thanks.
Ms. Garrity?
No, thank you for the presentation.
I don't think I have any questions, other than you were seeking about 390, 400?
Yeah, I think that would be more fair somehow. I mean, my lot is a bit bigger, but I don't see it as an advantage, quite frankly, because it's backing onto Bishop Grandin, so it's,
You had said across the street, but it's post-reference, it's sold, hey?
yes.
And, but that was in this year, hey?
It just sold in the
Yeah.
summer, yes.
Yeah, and it sold for 375,
375.
501.
Yep. Finished basement, everything the same,
So very similar to your house?
exactly the same
Okay.
layer.
All right, I thank you. Submission, Mr. Rounsworth?
No, I'm good. I'm
Okay.
good, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Nolan, anything further?
I think that's it.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Leave it with us and results very soon.
Thanks very much for
I thank you.
consideration.
Okay, Wells, come on. We'll have you affirmed or sworn in, either one. Yes. Okay.
Well, we have 3 people.
Yeah. No,
Oh, we have one more address.
no, we have 2. Seabrook and
You have
Cassette.
the option to swear on the Bible or to affirm
Set.
without it. You can have the Bible without
Number-
it. Please state your
Number
full name.
14.
And
Okay.
do you swear the evidence that you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Perfect. And then I will take pictures. Thank you.
Are you okay?
I have this, and then I have
you.
some photos.
Thank you. patience, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, look at that.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Assessor, you can take us through the property.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay. That's 432 wheels. As you know, Mr. Chairman, I'm not supposed to talk much about post-reference sale or certain values, so when the question comes in is why is it whatever it is, and I see how it is, I don't talk about it. The reason I'm here is because it's a post-reference sale. Having said that, 432 Wales Avenue, roll number 080-053-25200. A little bit about the property. It's a bi-level, single family, built in 1975 on 828 square feet with a full basement. And just about half, or a little bit more than half of it, according to our records, being developed. 5,200 square feet is a lot with commercial adjacent and external corner. We had a value of $300,000. Mr. Chairman, I didn't inspect the property. All I did was multiple listing searches and saw what it is, and I came up with anyways, and that's the 30,000 we have there. There are 4 comparables, and each of these comparables actually, each of the first 3 of them are in Meadows Wood, as is the subject property. The last one is Vista, as the neighborhood district is being called, probably most likely adjoining district. Now, they were all bi-level single-family home, and they were all built around the same time. Comparable number 1 on 223 Greenwood Avenue, built in 1974, 950 square feet, with a finished basement, same size of lot, and $317,000 of value. Comparable number 2 then, 94 Willow Mead, built in 1975, 892 square feet, also has a finished basement, a lot size that is larger, and it says $302,000. Comparable number 3, 479 Woodydale Avenue, bi-level, built in 1972. Apparently there have been some kind of renovation done in property to have an effective change in age. It is smaller by about 100 square feet, and it is backing, got a back lane and the same size of lot, $302,000. Comparable number 4 then is 182 Hazelwood Crescent, 1971 built, 864 square feet, just slightly larger than that of the subject property. About the same size of lot and $288,000. Now each of these properties, they are built around the same time. They all have multiple bath and finished rec room area. Most of the properties have the same lot size. And the one that has the least value is the last one at $288,000. Well, I guess I left this to the last, Mr. Chairman, because I did make some adjustment to the property to $292,000, and that's what I left it at. And that's it. That's my presentation. Thank you.
So there's a recommendation to reduce it to 292, or are you in agreement? No?
No.
Okay, that's fine. Questions of the assessor?
Well, I have only one question. If any of these properties somebody inspected in person, I mean, if assessment was in person or it was just based on the information provided. But you wasn't there in person, right? You didn't see any of those houses in person. I mean,
If I saw the house in full?
Yeah.
No, I didn't inspect it, no.
you just based on.
Multiple listing, I saw multiple
Okay,
listing.
yeah, that's another question.
Anything further? No?
No.
No. Okay. Ms. Davidson?
I have no questions at this time.
Ms. Garrity?
No questions?
I have none, so the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. should I stand or?
No, sit.
Well, the price for the house should be close to the real one. It shouldn't be just a fake number for the taxes. So I bought my house a year ago, and I bought it for 240,000. And this was a fair price. And I will try to explain briefly how it started. I mean, the previous owner, he started to sell the house based on the first assessment, 284,000. So she tried to sell it for over 6 months, but with no any positive result. So she reduced the price to 260,000, and there was no anybody who would like to buy the house. So finally, she reduced the price to 250,000, and that's where I actually started. I offered her 240,000, and I was the only one who offered something, at least this amount. The reason was the house was overpriced from the beginning, and it was overpriced because of the condition of the house itself, I mean the physical condition, and also because there are a lot of houses for the same price, I mean close to 300,000, that is in much better condition with garage and everything, with bigger square footage. So I bought it a year ago for 240,000, and I think it was fair. So after that, I made minor fixes. I mean, I just made minor renovations inside the house, but still has a lot of issues that needs to be fixed. I'm not a handyman, unfortunately, so I do my best. Okay, so now this is about the house itself. The best house that I can compare it with is my neighbor right behind my fence. So the same lot size. You can see. I completely forgot. This is the copy of the offer. I just to show the price for the house a year ago, the real price. And this is two copies from city. You can separate them. Just it will be easier to compare. So 432 it's my house, and 436 it's my neighbor's house. The same lot size, the same area, the same conditions. Everything is the same. Even if you will see the photo number 1 on the website, on city's website, it has the same price, the same assessment, 300,000. So my house and neighbor's house. So on the photo number 2, you can see it's a photo from Google satellite. So it's easily to compare both houses together. So the lot size is the same, but my neighbor's house is much bigger. Actually, you can see the square footage. It's 1,077 square feet. So it's 30% bigger than mine. Also, as you can see on this photo, there is a garage. It's a double garage. It's a good double garage. So already 2 things. So the square footage and the garage. So it can be the same. I mean, the price for the house cannot be the same. Also, my neighbor, he lived there for over 30 years. He spent a lot of time, money, and efforts to keep his house in really good condition. It's a perfect house. Probably, I would say 300,000 is a fair price for the house, maybe more. But compared to my house, you can see photo number 3. There is numbers on each photo. So this is a parking space for my car. There is no garage at all. So the house itself, oh, my neighbor's house built in the same year, 1975. So, but according to the city website, the price is the same. So on the next photos, number 4, 5, and 6, this is actually about the fence. I have a fence from 3 sides of the house, so everything is mine. And photo number 4 is a perfect example of the condition of the fence. So I will have to replace it as soon as possible. So 2 big things that I'm going to do is to build a garage and to replace the fence. And maybe in this case, my house, the price for my house will be close to 300,000. Actually, photos number 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. It's just to show the current physical condition of the house, the condition of the roof, shingles. You can see, you can easily see that it needs to be replaced. Windows, still wooden windows, and only 3 plastic windows, so they're all need to be replaced. My house was sold with all appliances as is. So then I realized what does it mean. Laundry is leaking, dishwasher is leaking, fridge is leaking. So I have to replace everything inside. So why I provided the examples like this, I mean, appliances and etc. So if I'm going to sell the house for the price higher than the current one, I mean the price that I paid a year ago, 240,000, I need to spend a lot of money. I need to make really huge investments in the garage, fence, inside, outside, roof, everything. So to make price closer to 300,000. I mean, at least like my neighbor's house. So it's not both houses are really close, but they are not comparable at all. And probably, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the area, but Wales, on the other side, right in front of my house and my neighbor's house, there was a kind of industrial area. For years, it was just a fence that Manitoba Hydro used to keep the equipment there. So it was not a living area at all. So it was not residential. But in this year, they started construction. They started to build, I'm not sure if townhouses or condominium. Finally, they started to do something. And so, I mean, the area itself in front of the house is not really good or comfortable.
So you're here this afternoon, and what value are you seeking for your property?
So, as I mentioned, I made minor fixes inside the house, so some renovations. So it's 250,000.
250?
Yes, 250.
Okay. I thank you. Questions?
No
No?
question.
Lori?
I have no questions,
Nor-
thank you.
No.
Okay. I just have a couple questions. You probably need a new roof,
Yes.
so approximately what it's gonna cost you? Approximately?
Well, my friend, he's a constructor.
Yeah.
He told me that it will cost around 7,000-8,000.
7 or 8?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you living in this house? Are you living in this house?
Yep.
Or it's not a rental?
Oh, this
Not a
is
rental?
my first and only
Okay.
house
Okay.
in Canada.
At the time of being offered for sale, what was the list price? I know what you paid, but what was the
No.
list price?
First price was 280,000.
280, eh?
Yeah, and assessed price was 284. So it was, they started from this price.
And when you bought this property, it included, quite a few of the fixtures? The stove, fridge, and washer dryer?
Yeah, everything was there, and as you can see, I
Window
have
coverings, yeah.
photos.
Okay.
They're really old.
Did you have the property appraised at all? By the bank? Did you have it appraised or anything like that when you bought it, or when you went for a mortgage? Did they?
Yeah, they priced it for the same price actually, 240.
Okay.
The same as I bought.
Okay, I thank you. Summation?
No.
No? Anything further?
No,
Leave it with us. Thank you for coming this afternoon,
thank you.
and results very soon.
Thank you for that.
Number 87. Is it? Yeah. Number 14 on our docket. Come on forward and we'll either have you affirmed or sworn in. Almost there.
Okay.
You guys want me to swear on the Bible or to affirm without it? Fine, sounds good. Please swear on the Bible. Please state your full name. And do you swear the evidence that you are about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth so help you God?
I do.
Perfect. And do we have some evidence for the county? That's all together. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any problem with your card, anything like that?
It's good at this point till
Thank you.
4:20.
420.
I'm 5, so I can wait.
Okay, you're, okay. So 420?
20. So
And
maybe-
you don't
yeah,
have to move it at 3:30 or anything like that?
Sorry?
You don't have to move it at 3:30?
No, I was very careful now. I
Okay,
actually
good.
parked it
Okay.
outside by.
All right.
There.
Mr. Ramsawat, whenever you're ready, you can take us through this property.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For 87 Fissette Place, roll number 060-9344-3300 in Sage Creek. A little description of the subject property. It's a two-story single-family home. It was built in 2013. It's 1,772 square feet with a partly finished basement. We have it on record about 470 square feet finished. Multiple bathroom, 4,928 square feet in the external corner, and $427,000 is the value, asset value. The four comparables that I have here, comparable number 1 is on 99 Cone Flower Crescent. All of these properties that is the comparable as well as subject property, are in the same neighborhood area in Sage Creek. Each of the comparables is a two-story, each of them single family, and they were built roughly around the same time. So comparable number 1, built in 2013, same year as the subject property, and maybe 75 square feet larger than that of the subject property. About the same size of basement finish, about the same size of lot, and that one is $451,000, which supports the value of the subject property. Comparable number 2 then is number 27 Baptiste Tourand Road, built in 2012, 1,853 square feet, which is about 75 square feet larger than that of the subject property, and about the same size of rec room finish, same size of lot size, and $411,000 for this one. Comparable number 3 then, 130 Purple Sage Crescent, built the same year, and it is larger than the subject property by maybe 130 square feet or more. Nothing in the basement, and it's 425 square feet and a similar size of lot. Then the last one is on 51 Willow Lane, 1,704 square feet, about 68 square feet smaller than that of the subject property, and about the same development in the basement. The lot size is about the same, external corner, and it's $431,000. These comparables sort of do support the value of the subject property, Mr. Chairman, and that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Questions of the assessor?
Yes, sir. Mr. Assessor, I would like to ask, so while performing those comparables, have any of the actual finishes of the houses whereas built per market value by the, or developed by the Qualicum, built by the builders were taken into account. As we know today, on the market, the value for the same house varies between the finishes between $22,000 to $48,000, the exact square footage. So just the difference of whatever's been put in a house completely changes the price. Was any of those components were taken into consideration when performing this type of comparables?
Now, whilst I recognize that many houses built around the same square footage and have different value, yes, they are considered to be of different quality, or especially if they're custom built and built with different builder. I do take that into, I do recognize that, okay? Do I take that into consideration? What we have here is the property, we try to get in the same location, same style, as in two-story, built around the same time. We like to get the same square footage. And the basement finish, in these cases, they are highly similar. The lot size is highly similar. The values are always going to be a few percentage here and there different. These properties are certainly very close to yours. There is one property I see here. Actually, there are two, but I wouldn't even consider comparable number 3 as being different. When it's $2,000 difference in value, that's negligible. When you consider comparable number 3 that doesn't have a basement finish and only $2,000 lower than the subject property, that also suggests that it supports the value of the subject property. The only one I see here is questionable is comparable number 2 that was sold and have a value of $411,000. That's the only one that I see questionable.
Thank you, sir. At the time of your appraising, was the market already, was the house already on the market for sale at the time?
These properties were sold.
Let's see. The actual house, that my house, the 87 facade, when you did the assessment.
Oh, yeah.
Was at the time of assessment the market, the house was already listed on the market, or was the assessment done prior?
I'm not sure I understand the question, not because I didn't speak clearly, just because I don't hear well. Okay.
I'm sorry, sir. So the question is, at the time of assessment, was the current property already listed on the market, or the assessment was done prior to the actual
Are you
listing?
referring to your own property, right? Your
Yeah.
own
Yes.
property?
I own this property since,
2014 or 13 or whatever.
no, sir, I own this property just since January, I took possession actually on January 2019.
Oh, okay, so it's another post-reference sale. Okay, all right.
Yes, sir.
Actually, I know what happened in this. Different things happened, Mr. Chairman. As I look at this was deliberately blocked out for reasons that I think what's happening in our department, we can't come to a consensus or whether we leave it there or don't. Personally, I leave it and let you make a decision. I don't make reference to the value, or I don't, I may consider from time to time, say yes, it has been sold at post-reference, but I don't dwell on it, and now that I'm seeing it here, I realize that yes, it was locked out. And here's the reason. I don't necessarily sound stupid or look stupid, but the reality is that if I couldn't see it, and therefore I would go on blabbing. You're right, there was.
I think to answer the question, the assessment is already on the house. It's got nothing to do with the sale. Okay. Yeah. The assessment of your house is already there compared to the sale. They don't really,
I got you.
okay.
You heard that better than me, and your correct answer, that you're right. That assessment was there
Yeah,
before
it
you
was,
bought your home.
it was there prior to,
I got
and
you.
it,
Okay, that's,
you know, when it's first built, it's assessed, and then it goes up
I
accordingly.
understand.
We determined its value sometime in December of last year. And this is 2019, is it?
Yeah.
18, 19, 20, yeah, sometime last year, by ending of last year, these values were all in place.
Thank you.
And certified by December or January, something like that.
Thank you, sir.
That's it?
No further questions?
Okay. Ms. Davidson?
I have no questions at this
Ms.
time.
Garrity?
Thank you. No questions.
We are privy for, that we know that there was a sale on the property, because we have all the data.
I'm glad in this case I can explain, I don't know what the source.
Yeah. You were absolutely correct by deleting the post-reference material.
Mhm.
The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, sir. Dear Chairperson, board members, thank you for taking your time. I tried to be short and concise here. So one of the things that I do, I'll refer first to the evidence that were presented to you. First one is the actual sales sheet, the printout of from the Realtor's website regards the actual sale price of the house that we have purchased in the end of last year and took possession January this year, which the actual sale price was $405,000. And then after the house was actually in the market, first listed for $434, then it was there for 90 days, then removed from the market and then put back on the market where it stayed for over 80 days for $419, removed again, put back, and the third time we purchased it over 4 days as we were closely following in that area for the houses, as we have a large family and we needed 3 sleep. We were looking for a long time for actual 3 sleeping bedrooms on a second floor. Sorry, 4 bedrooms on a second floor. The second evidence that I have presented is the actual appraisal that was conducted by the bank appraisal. Was comparing similar properties in the area, and as you see, their actual appraisal came out $1,000 more than the actual price that we paid, which is $406. However, even given that, we learned later on that we're currently dealing with the issues since purchase of the house. We had to replace the furnace, as the blower motor on the day of possession on January 15, when it was -26, was barely working. So without any hesitations, we had to replace that one, and then the dishwasher, and then the washing machine. So right now, our lawyers looking into lawsuit of the previous owners because they did not want to respect the actual offer that was there, and the things were not in proper order, and some of them were critical, of course, for you probably understand, for the winter that we had to do. Additional things that happen is that we do have finished basement, which was used as a daycare. As of during the replacement of the furnace and the parts there, we addressed that many of the components of the basement are actually not per code. They're actually violating the code. So there is something that we're looking into right now, as will probably need to be fixed. So some demolition replacement need to be done, and all the floors currently will need to be replaced as they're not level. Otherwise, so the house was in really poor condition. That was the main reason why I did not sold, and required some additional fixings, such as we had to paint the whole house. We had to replace all the countertops because the original will burn. So we on moving date, unfortunately, we had to, which is something we did not plan because the house was nicely staged and some of the things could not be seen. And we were over $20,000 of investment just to move in, and our moving took over 1.5 months after we took possession, just to get all the things done and be able to move with 3 little kids to the house in its current condition. However, going back to the real market value, you can see that the 405 is, I think, is a fair and acceptable market as per the definition of market value, because I think the fact that the house was for a while in the market and had no offers at all at the time of our presenting, we were the only offer, and only that the house was completely vacant on the day when we presented the offer, and so that's a fact of that current condition. While some houses in the neighborhood sell within 5 to 14 days, this house was in the market for a longer period of time. So yeah, that's about what I have to claim to it. And yeah, sorry. So when we the offer at the time we purchased, the house was already on the market for $419,000 was listed, and we purchased it for $405, which again was some unexpected expenses and recurring things that we'll have to deal with that were not planned, because it's in the end of the day it's only 5 years old house, but unfortunately it not really represents what it should be, or at least what we're hoping to get from the value that we paid for. So definitely going back to, we feeling that the assessment of the current amount for 27 is way and above, and especially that there was an actual market value that was paid, that was way lower. And we would like to ask to adjust that to the appropriate amounts. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ramsawat, questions?
No question, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Davidson?
I have no questions, thank you.
Ms. Garrity?
No questions?
Summary, either party?
No summary, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Want to leave it with us?
Thank you very much.
And thank you for coming this afternoon, and results very soon.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Carr? Number 8, Seabrook Cove.
Do you have the option to swear in on the Bible or to affirm?
I'd like to, please.
Great. Please state your full name.
Thanks.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to present is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Perfect. And do you have some copies for the panel?
I do. Just fine,
Excellent.
All right. Mr. Ramsawat, whenever you're ready, you can take us through this
Thank you,
property.
Mr. Chairman. On 8 Seabrook Cove, with the roll number 06007694700 in Southdale. A little description of the property. It's a one-story single family, built in 1975 at 1,347 square feet. Full basement and some development in the basement, and 8,000 square feet lot size, $369,000 is the assessment on the property. There are 4 comparables here that supports the subject property. Each of these comparables is in the same neighborhood area in Southdale. Each of them is single family. Each comparable is one story, and they were built around the same time in the early to mid 70s. Comparable number 1 on 199 Edgemont Drive, 1,326 square feet, full basement and some development. A lot size that is a little smaller than that of the subject property, and it's $350,000 almost as a value on it. That's $3,499. Comparable number 2 then is 88 Lake Lawn Drive, built in 1974, 1,276 square feet. Similar features in the basement, rack room and that. A lot size that is a little smaller, and $360,900 is the value. Comparable number 3, number 2, Catsworth Place. This property is built in 1977. It's 1,271 square feet, a little smaller than that of the subject property. It's got a rec room, a lot size that is smaller, and it's $366,000. Comparable number 4, which is the last one, and number 14, Burnt Wood Crescent, built in 1972. It's 1,276 square feet smaller, does have a rec room as well, and a lot size that is also smaller, and it's $357,000. I do want to point out, based on some information and records that we have, we may hear that this property has increased what some people would call substantially because of percentage increase. Little information here, as conversation with including the supervisor, that we're going to be here because the idea of looking at percentage change, in this case between last assessment and this one, is not considered certainly in our discussion. So we'll keep that in mind. We don't know what we'd want to do, but I want to get the second here. The assessment was $326,000 in 2018 and 19. So that would suggest that would be considerable difference in terms of of percentage increase. Keep in mind that when we're doing this now, other information may look back into many other assessments. We don't know what goes on, but at the end of the day, it's not always percentage increase that we do to determine value. What we look at is the characteristics of the property. We look at the location, the type of home, the time it was built, age, size, and what other characteristics it will have to determine the value. At $369,000, it certainly look here that it's in line with what the other properties have actually been sold for when we do your reconciliation and see differences in lot size and perhaps little differences in the size of the home and the lot size. I like to think that $369,000 is a fair value, and that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions of the assessor?
A few questions. One that actually he was talking about lot size, Mr. Assessor, and then you said difference in lot size. Did you also note that my lot is an irregular shaped lot? It's in the end of a cove, so that there's the front part is basically not super serviceable, and the house is further back on the lot for that reason. You know
I'm
what I
sorry,
mean?
your question?
Well, in the beginning, when you get, as you can see it for the visual, right, it's right in the beginning of the ball end of the cove. I just thought of this now when you were talking about this. So that the front part is kind of like a deke out, so it's not really that. You could say it's a different in lot size, but it's kind of a, in my mind, a bit of a trade-off because the front part isn't that usable, the very front part of the lot.
So, I'm sorry, but the question is?
It's a different shaped lot
Yeah,
than the rest of the other,
Mhm.
so to count in part for the difference in the lot size.
I'm glad that you asked that question, so allow me to answer it. What I recognized here, and whilst I was making my presentation, I didn't recognize it until afterwards I looked at the map. What I recognized here, and I like the panel to take into consideration, your property is in fact in a cul-de-sac, right? And I'd love to have my property in a cul-de-sac, and more especially I'd love to have it closer to where it is and you only go around and come out. So indeed, you would expect it to have a shape that is different in front. That's where the curve is. But the reality is that I don't know that the lot size at 8,000 square feet is smaller, unless you want to maybe disagree with that. If you agree with it, you can move on. But the mere fact that it's in the cul-de-sac, I think people desire a property in the cul-de-sac more than they would on certain other streets that is more busy. I also see there's another one in the cul-de-sac here, on compartment number 2, for example. The difference that I'm seeing there is that once it's in the cul-de-sac, it's on the corner, but yours is more like inside.
Okay.
It's called, in our view, the location is very desirable.
Okay. Understood. Another question I had when I was reading through this again, in the analysis and conclusions on the page attached to this, I'm a little confused with that because it talks about, in the second paragraph, it talks about comparables used by the assessor, et cetera, comparables used to support the owner's position are problematic. The owner's first comparable is the only one common between hers and the assessor's comparable sales. That was the first thing that surprised me because there's no her that put in anything, it's just me. So, and then I was thinking further and going, however, they disagree on the square footage of living area and the resulting value per square foot. That was never an argument that I put anywhere. So I'm just confused on this.
You got me lost. Are you reading from your?
I'm reading from the handout that I was given from the assessor's side.
Yours?
Yours.
Oh, okay, so okay,
Yeah.
fine.
Page, I think it's headed up page 4?
Page 4, second paragraph.
Yes.
So I'm just confused by that,
Yeah.
what's happening there.
You could ask it in the form of a question and get an answer.
Okay, can you please tell me why it would say in the second paragraph, the owner's first comparison is the only one in common between hers and the assessor's comparable sales? So there was no hers, oh, anyway, let's tackle that first one.
No, that's okay. No, bear with me. I have to know which
Page 4,
information I'm
page
giving.
4 in the second paragraph.
Oh, you're referring to the analysis and conclusion. This is intended to be a sample. The only reason this is here, this one, are we talking the same page? The only reason this is here is for those people who are bringing properties that are post-reference, is for information only. This does not support the value. This, again, let me emphasize, this is for information for people who are bringing properties that are sold after April 1st, 2018, and to suggest to them that for their own information, it's not relevant information for the panel to use. That's what this is all about.
Okay, so it wasn't for specifically to do with my, that's why I was confused, I thought that it
Well,
was.
I'm glad you asked the question, right?
Yeah.
I mean, some people don't, and the other information that I give for basically for information purposes.
Okay.
Not for you to use, because chances you might be back next year, but you want to know that next year or whenever you come back again, you know what information to bring.
Okay.
And not to bring.
That's good, thank you, I do appreciate that. And yes, it was confusing, and now I'm no longer confused. I recognize it's a sample here.
And thank you for asking the
Thank you.
question.
Okay. Those are the only questions I have at this.
All right, I thank you. Ms. Davidson?
I had a question for the assessor. I noticed the effective age is still the same, yet it was built in 75. Have there been any renos or upgrades to this property relative to the comparables? Like, are they all graded at the same level? Okay, sorry.
I didn't hear you, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. For the subject property, have there been any renovations or upgrades?
We don't have any record of that. By me looking at it, the moment I look at a property that doesn't have that change, I'm gonna make the assumption that anything that's done would be regular maintenance. Whether you change a carpet, for example, or you paint it, or
Right.
something is leaking, you fix it up, you know, that kind of thing would not have, we wouldn't do effective age change on it.
Okay, so then the subject property and your 4 comparables, are they all listed as the same condition, interior and exterior?
Yes, we would do that, yes.
And what condition is that?
Although I don't have them all in details here, we will consider them average.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Ms. Garrity?
No, I don't have any questions.
Mr. Carr? The floor is yours.
Okay. Look at that.
We have your handout.
The handout,
Yeah.
yes, so the handout. So I had, well, there's 2 parts, I guess I'll talk about this most immediately. I had Ms. Couture spent the dollars to have her do a comparative market analysis, and it's a little difficult to do it right exactly on the date of, as you can imagine, of April 1st, 2018. So she has put together for me a listing of properties in the area, in the immediate area, and their actual sale values, the dates they were sold at, the square footage, and all the details to go with them. If you refer, actually, you can refer in part to the assessor handout with the, which I didn't realize that, I tried to track that with a map to get a feel where some of them are. So one of the ones that she has listed here is 18 Lake Lawn Drive, which is just down the road from 88 Lake Lawn Drive, which is also on the assessor map here. Another one is 78 Edgemont Drive, which is just down the road from 199 Edgemont Drive, also on the map here. Another one is 43 Burntwood Crescent, which happens to be just down the road from 14 Burntwood Crescent on here. And then 3 others that she's also supplied that are outside, slightly outside the range of that in Southdale. 26 Watercress Road, that's, if you just go slightly off the left, I'm trying to make notes just before this to put this together. Just off the left side of the northwest corner of the map there, that's where Watercress Road appears. And the last 2, 310 Vermilion, is just north of where this map is, still in the same south portion of Southdale. And Lake Lawn Drive is also in that little stretch just south of Vermilion there, and it's a quiet cul-de-sac. And what other things can I mention on here? Some of these that she's listed actually have larger square footage size than my home has. which is 1347. Some of them are slightly smaller, you can look over the specs a bit there, but I just draw that to attention. Price-wise, because the prices that are there, and this is again a little bit into 2018, 2019, are lower than the ones that I'm, for the most part, that I'm seeing here. And again, I haven't crunched a bunch of numbers on this, obviously, than the 4 comparables that are shown for the assessment department. But again, I would have to kind of sit and crunch the numbers and figure out square footage. I obviously haven't done that, you know. So that's one thing that I would mention out of the thing. And then she says, further down here, and she's done, as you can see, you spend the dollars, and I guess she goes to town, puts all the details in here, she really did. And towards the back, she gives, maybe we'll just flip to the last couple of pages so you're just getting kind of an idea of that my home is pretty dated. Pictures in the last 2 pages of the handout. I'll try not to jump around too much, but that she put together gives you an idea, just to show you that the windows, for the most part, are already original windows from the 1970s that haven't been upgraded. The kitchen, as you can see there, it's all original. Ladco built almost all of Southdale. So that's the original floor you see there. The original cupboards that actually got painted in terracotta paint. They were chocolate brown from the 70s time period. And there was an orange countertop that got actually painted over. And the next page, the ensuite bathroom needs renos. They're still, it's a little bit underway, but there's still the original toilet there. The entrance, as you can see, there's been no changes through to the flooring and so on and so forth. So just a few ideas for a sense of condition on current condition. She did assess the whole thing through and suggests that the one on 80 Lake Park Drive is the most comparable to mine. And again, I'm relying on her stats and her expertise as a realtor to tell me this versus not tell me such a thing. And that one sold for $335,000 in the very beginning of 2019. And it has 1,500 plus square feet. Oh, I'm sorry, about how many pages in are we?
Which one are you,
Yeah, I'm just trying to think.
Which one are you describing?
I'm describing
The address.
8 Lake Park Drive. So it's close to the end of the...
Lake Park?
Yeah, 80 Lake Park.
Okay.
So it's close to the last. I wish you numbered this. I should have numbered them. It's close to the back.
Okay.
80 Lake Park Drive, I'll wait till everybody finds that. I apologize. I should have thought ahead and numbered them.
80 or
80?
18?
80 Lake Park Drive.
Okay. And you wrote on there, best comparable.
Nope, she wrote that.
Oh,
comparable.
okay.
That's
Oh,
her
there it
words,
is.
not mine.
Okay.
Again, I rely on the realtor to see.
Okay.
And so there's 1,000, does everybody have the page now? Did I have enough time? Okay, thank you. So 1,500 square feet, mine's 1347. You note that it says, actually, and I was listening to our assessor speak earlier, I tweaked on this, so I wrote this down. Rate cul-de-sac location in Southdale, which is what mine is. And the assessor noted that properties, I've heard him say a couple times now, properties on cul-de-sacs are more desirable. It has 4 bedrooms, not 3 like mine, but regardless, a lot of the other specs are essentially very similar to mine, and it sold for $335 about 2019. So that's, and then she gives the specs for the other ones. Back towards the end, there's one that did sell for higher, which she notes on 18 Lake Lawn, which sold for $362. But she also notes lots of upgrades and lots of maintenance there with soffits and fascia outside, gutters. They basically redone a whole lot of the inside and outside sort of thing, which I haven't done in mine. And then she has her price recommendation, which once again, I'm sorry I don't have. I should number these pages. I really should have. Probably midway through. after you get through all the wonderful bar graphs and everything like this, you're starting initially like this, and you're going through to seeing these wonderful bar graphs and everything. She gives her assessment partway through. It's a short little page, it'll look like this, where there's hardly anything on it.
Okay.
I really wish I numbered these, so I'm sorry.
Next time.
Next time, yeah. See if you see a little page with already writing on it, you've got the right page. Towards the, about midway through, I'd say. Getting
Find
close.
it? Wait a second.
Chairperson, you're close. You
Ah,
got
there
it.
we go.
You got it.
There we go.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
So on this, as you can read, she says, she recommends, based upon these properties, these 6 properties with comparable sizes, conditions, and so on and so forth that she's compared, she recommends, if I was to list the house, my house, Secret Cove, the list price should be in the range of $339,000 to $344,900, with an expected projected sale price of $337,000, she says. Most of the other comparable homes had significant upgrades and improvements over the years, although there's been some maintenance upgrades on your home is needed along the way, such as a furnace, a few newer windows. The original condition of the home cannot be ignored. The most comparable home to yours would be 80 Lake Park Drive, which is the one that I mentioned earlier there. Although it's somewhat larger 4-bedroom home, it was in similar condition on a quiet cul-de-sac and maintenance, and sold for $339,900 in 17 days, and so on and so forth 2 months ago. So that's part of the stuff. I'd have, I can talk more about some other things as well, but any questions initially?
I think that about covers, I think, a lot of things. The only thing that I want to mention is that, you know, your agent did an excellent job and analysis, but, you know, what we're after is the market value with the reference period.
Yes,
Okay.
harder to do, yes.
Yeah, so the reference date is April the 1st, 2018.
Right, understood.
Yeah.
But if you say,
Yeah.
or if you keep it,
We keep that in mind, that's all.
thank you, okay.
Yeah. So I know, you know, looking through, I looked at Birchwood Crescent, and it's you know, right at the reference date. It's February 13th, 2018.
Yeah.
And, you know, the list price is there, and the sale price is, you know, like $331. So it's right around the ballpark there, so I think we have enough data for the time being. I'll just see if do you have any questions of the applicant?
Not a question, but maybe my summation 30 seconds to
Okay.
finish.
Okay.
I don't even have to mention it, but perhaps to emphasize, you know, what we talked about, what you consider page 4. Okay, not in vain, Mr. Chairman, that's
Okay.
all. The question I would have asked, you've already
Okay.
made a point of it already.
Ms. Davidson, any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
Ms. Garrity?
Just, what are you asking?
Okay, sorry, I'll answer that question first. I'd be asking in line with what the rate the agent suggested that it would be selling for, which was, now I have to find the date.
337.
337, yes,
That's what you're asking, okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
And they have, yeah, I recognize that it's not as of the assessment date, April 1st, 2018, but also and I think I listened to an earlier person as well talk about the MLS said that the sales in the southeast portion of the city have increased 2.35% per year and so on. So yes, it's more higher, and yet these values are lower, so I'm trying to understand that.
Summation?
Something to think about.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, in reference to that same page that you questioned earlier about post reference, I encourage you to read that very carefully. and that you even want to discuss it with your real estate agent. Now, I have no criticism to the realtor, keep that in mind. I used to sell real estate myself, and until I got in the assessment department, I didn't realize what it is. But when I used to sell real estate, the reference date was sometime in 1966, believe it or not. And then it moved on for 10 years and 88 and that kind of thing. Having said that, it's very important that that's what it is, and the party will recognize that it's post-reference sale, and then they'll be able to make their own decision. That said, I have no other question, nothing else to say. Thank you.
I thank you, Mr. Carr. Your final words?
Yeah, the only other, I could go into a bit more detail as to some of the stuff as I have supported the value of my property in the past. I will mention that as well too. In 2016, I provided a formal appraisal from Tom McGreco and Associates for their inspection as of June 16, 2014, with a retrospective estimate value as of August 15, 2011, comparing market sales and so on and so forth. They estimated the value at $320,000 of my home at that point. It was very detailed. It was a 21-page report. Cost me over $500 to do. Based upon that info, I had contacted the Assessment and Taxation Department because at that point, after that, they'd given an assessment that was higher as well. I contacted them in the pre-period, is it called the pre-period? Yeah, the pre-period. And said, well, I have this information to support. The assessment department looked at it and said, we agree with this. We'll make a recommendation to the Board of Revisions to lower the 2016 assessment to $320 and instead of the higher one, which was then accepted. And then in February 2017, of course, there's a new assessment at that point. I don't have supporting with this. Based upon the market value as of April 1st, 2016, at that point they said there was a proposed market value of $358, and at which point I contacted assessment again and I said, oh, this is unusual. Why did they bump it up so much again? We just had this discussion prior to this. The assessment officer told me that the computer system doesn't recognize if a change in value is overridden, and so, which would make $320, so it just did an increase at that point. And she did some comparables for the assessment, looked at the thing in the base once again, and asked me if I'd done any improvements, any changes since last time. I said, yes, I've upgraded, I've added some windows and stuff basically, and we discussed that, and then she said, okay, well, I'll change your 2018 assessment based on that for the market value as of April 1st, 2016 to be $326,000, which is what you see there at that point. And I said, that's great, thank you very much. I'm glad we could discuss and have a discussion, everything like this. And she also told me, again, this was in February 2017, and I have email records of all this if needed to be provided. She also said that any future assessments would also be off again because of the computer system, and it doesn't carry over and needs to override values. This happens every time, she told me. And I said, she said for future assessments, I should give their office a call during the, there's the words, preview period at that point, and they will look into it, and I think the assessed value is representative of the market and in line with what I provided in the past and things like this, and then they'll do it. So I should give them a call, which I did. So here we go forward to February 2nd, 2019. I contacted the assessment department as I got the latest one, which you see now for $369, and a different assessment officer looked at it at that point, and the assessment officer reviewed it and said, well, we're looking at some of the data and things like this, crunching the numbers. I see it as 369. That's my decision, it stands. If you disagree, you can appeal your assessment.
Thus you're here.
So here I am. So that's the result. So here I am. So that's the backstory of the whole thing as to why I'm here today.
Okay.
So essentially that's it. If I have anything, the other thing, and the brief bit of time, difficult to try and find out the comparable assessors for the 4 assessments provided by the assessor here. What I was able to quickly look up the one for 88 Lake Lawn that's very high for 357 compared to some of the other stuff there anyway. And as part of, I'm very dry, I wish I had water or something like this.
There's one right there.
I'll obviously not used to talking in front of a bunch of people. Over your eye, okay, just a sec. I'll try and sum the last up quickly here.
Take your time.
Okay, on Lake Lawn, I did look that up, and on the sales, a little bit I was able to find some of the specs that talks about that are different than my place, and we talk about, I heard the assessor talk about the importance of the basement and the value of the home and stuff like that. I note that the 88 Lake Lawn, by comparison, which my home does not have, and that's the one that's right backed onto my home, right on the map there next door there, has a walk-in cedar closet in the basement, listed as having a gas fireplace in the basement. I don't have a fireplace at all in the basement. With the full, and they have a picture of a full Tyndall stone wall. I certainly don't have anything like that in my basement. I have basic walls like this, sort of thing like that. There's a wet bar, an extensive wet bar, a retractable awning outside, a full monitoring alarm system. My home does not have a monitoring alarm system or an alarm system at all, but don't tell anybody that, please. Okay, a full underground sprinkler system. A remote garage door opener. I take my door up and down like that. I don't have any controls on that. Triple pane windows throughout. Most of mine are from the 70s, the original stuff, except for the few that were replaced. And the kitchen cupboards and floors, you can see in the picture that I was able to see, have been completely upgraded. And the floors and all of the cabinets and everything. And as I explained earlier, I have all the original stuff still, so. From the lab coat and stuff. I think I've taken up enough of your time to give, you know.
Mr. Carr, thank you very much for your presentation, and thank you for your patience and results
You're welcome.
very quickly.
Okay,
So
very good.
thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, and that's, yeah, enough of your time. Let everybody get out and enjoy the rest of the day.
Well, we'll be here a while.
Oh, you got more yet
Oh,
today?
yeah.
Oh,
No, we have to.
Oh, then you
conclude.
have to deliberate probably, right?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay, I've got it, yeah, okay, I'll get up quick so you can do that then. Thank you so much. Guess we got some really nice weather for a few days now,
Yes,
so everybody
yes,
eventually gets on,
yes.
gets to enjoy a little bit of the
Yes,
evening, right?
until the snow comes.
Till, don't mention that four-letter word.
I know.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Mr. Renzo, what I think what we'll probably do is go to number 6. Thank you. You can leave your water unless you want to take it with you.
One more sip.
Okay, take it with you.
Okay. I'm good. Thanks.
Okay, see you. Bye-bye. And we'll do, you can read the roll number, the address, and the rec.
Ability to report to 91 Blue
I haven't
Mountain.
had evidence for this.
Oh,
You were never given any evidence for this.
we don't have any data?
Oh, no.
So you have all the sheets, right? Okay, so you can read it, and then you can hand it to us and we'll put it as the record. So the floor is yours.
Okay.
91 Blue Mountain Road. Roll number, address, blah, blah, blah.
91 Blue Mountain. Roll number 06002401800. 1-story bungalow. Well, how can it be 1-story bungalow? Okay, it's a long day, huh? So 1-story home, $432,000. I did research on this, and they have agreed with a value that I proposed for $412,000.
Or 12?
Yes, I give you this one sheet.
Okay, you can just,
I wouldn't have maps on it.
yeah,
That
you
would-
can put it in one pile, and then we'll give it to our
Okay,
girls.
So that's
Yeah.
it there.
Okay, if you can just take
Yeah.
that and flip it over,
Yeah.
because it will just put everything on top.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Okay, number 7. Next one.
51 Treasure Cove. Okay, 51 Treasure Cove is a 1-story home in Island Lakes, here in the rule number 060-024-63800, for $399,000 is the assessment on that. I made a recommendation of $367,000, and it was accepted, and here it is.
367. All right. And number 8 on the docket. Governor?
That would be 115 Charbonneau.
Yep.
Again, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that incorrectly.
No,
No,
it
that's
sounds
right
good.
on.
Again? Holy smoke.
Oh,
Very
I
French.
just, do I get certificate in French now?
Very French, yeah.
Oh, okay.
you
All right.
for time.
115, two-story home in Island Lake. We have it at $324,000. I made a recommendation for $320,000. And that was accepted.
Is that accepted by email or telephone? It's probably on the,
Ratified by
Okay.
email. It
It's
was a
on- it's on-
verbal agreement and then ratified by email.
okay,
Giving you my copy, I wouldn't even
Yeah,
have.
that's
my-
fine.
I have to generate
Yeah.
something else. So here it is,
Yeah.
here you go.
number 11.
Number 11 is 116 Shore Hill Drive. The roll number 060-050-712-00. In Royalwood, it's a one-story home for $464,000. I made a recommendation for $420,000 and it's accepted. Here it is.
Yes, thank you. Number 12.
Number 12, and incidentally, it's also 12 in the civic address for Bonaventura Drive West. I made a recommendation to reduce it from $626,000 to $616,000, and it's accepted. Ratified by email, and agreed on by phone conversation.
Okay, we'll go to 16, 17, 18. It says,
16, 17, and 18.
yeah,
You have a no-show. I had a conversation with the homeowner, and she wasn't sure whether or not she's going to be showing up. Of course, this was one of those people who wanted to us to have a conversation. I spoke with her on 3 different occasions, spent a long time to give her information. Really long time, I should say. Eventually, she wasn't sure, she didn't agree. We still have a disagreement with the, what is it called, this supplementary. She thought that, okay, the supplementary was for the swimming pool, as what was sent out to her, but this supplementary, when I checked it out, was for swimming pool and rec room. Now, it took a while. Now, if you recall this morning, or this afternoon, I gave you some handouts, whereby I show you what the result was. You can take a look at that and describe it to you, tell you what you're looking for. What you're looking at, the first top picture, you would notice on the top left-hand corner somewhere, you see the year 2017. Okay, now look in the other columns, the first dark position thing, keep going down, somewhere around the third of the page from the top, okay? And you notice all the characteristics of the property there in 2017. You will not see a basement finish. Tell me when you don't see that.
okay, I think
There's
just,
basement area, but
we'll just read them into the record. Okay. Legend.
You okay with everything?
Just
Move
read
on.
them, just read the roll numbers and the addresses and,
Okay, for each
Yeah.
of them, right, hold on.
and the original value.
Okay, for 2018, 58 Forsaker Place, that's the address of the property, roll number 080-211-573-00, two-story home in River Park South with a swimming pool. $465,000 for 2018, and I couldn't make a recommendation, and therefore I ask that you confirm that.
And do you have to do the other ones?
I beg your pardon?
Do you have to do the other ones? They're all the same roll number.
Well,
But
yeah,
different-
same roll number, same
Yeah.
address.
Yeah, but different years.
Yeah, different year. For
Okay.
2019 is the same thing, $465,000, and I asked that you confirm that as well.
Okay. And the 20,
For 2020, same rule number, same address, this time it's $481,000. And I ask that you confirm that as well. You would have the listings, the briefs on all of these.
Could I just ask whether you made a recommendation to her for a
If I
different
did make a
value?
recommendation,
For either the subs in 2018 and 19, or for the 2020 year, did you make any recommendation
no, I
to
didn't make
her?
any recommendation.
So you just had
We're still
discussions?
discussing. Towards the end, we talked about values, and it's based on what you see there.
Okay,
And they were very close, the margin of,
yeah, okay, I was just wondering if you.
no, I didn't make any recommendation.
all right,
She
that
didn't ask for
concludes
one,
business.
you can give it, pardon me?
That concludes business.
Okay, in other words, don't say anything, just leave, right?
You can shut the camera off, please. And